for the record, Erica, I'm sure that our viewers wouldn't mind hearing about an anarchist commune of prostitutes.
Oh, I'm sure.
But-
I just had to press the go live button.
If I'm being perfectly honest, I would feel like a moral imperative to go to that brothel.
The worst part is, me and Erica played Shadowrun once, and we had our hands on 30 prostitutes. We could have done this.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to
we're on.
Westeros. That's the playful banter you missed while we're all killing time, and you're listening to our dope-ass soundtrack. Welcome back to A Sea of Spears. We are going back to Westeros today. We are going back to King's Landing today. We are going right back to the Red Keep today, what would normally be called the Lion's Den, but instead the Stag's Den, because whatever, he's the king and not, technically the Lannisters. But anyways, we've got a feast to visit tonight. We're going to have some roleplay with the Queen of Thorns, Lady Olenna Tyrell. We're going to have Bawdy Robert Baratheon hanging out. We're going to have a whole bevy of other NPCs, new and old, chilling and eating dinner as the parties runs into plenty of intrigue opportunities, rumors to overhear, pointed glances to witness, NPCs to interact with, old grudges to bring up, new grudges to form, new friends to make, new enemies to make, old enemies to rediscover. Just anything that can go wrong, just very well do so. But also, there's going to be a ton of food. And there should be not very much fighting. It's a feast, and they're always peaceful and tranquil. Times of community and brotherhood for the nobility of Westeros. And this show, and this broadcast, and this campaign are all about community and brotherhood. Isn't that right?
So is Brotherhood the bar next to the brothel called Community?
Well, yeah, it's the gay bar right next to the community brothel.
That way you have something for everybody.
On the same block.
Yeah. So we are going to get things going today. We're going to do our normal introduce your character type of thing in just 1 minute. But first, we're going to kick off with me introducing and reminding everybody about the Iron Throne. You can try and seize the Iron Throne by beating our stream boss with likes and cheers and bits and subscriptions and all that good imaginary Twitch stuff that you buy with Earth money to show your support for the show and for the Shadowcaster Network, who graciously hosts us. If you seize the Iron Throne by depleting its 500 hit points and beating our stream boss, you can give a destiny point to a character of your choice. That's a PC or NPC. In recent weeks, we have had a veritable flurry of destiny points going towards player characters. I know at least once we had Ash give one to Sir Garland, the Darlin, Tyrell instead, in direct violation of brotherly love, instead of voting with his budding teenage hormones and in the throes of puberty. But yeah, I mean, it's fair. It's Sir Garland. Who wouldn't?
I don't blame you.
Yeah, so you can choose whoever. You can go to player characters, you can go to non-player characters, it can go to friends of the party, it can go to enemies of the party. It is all up to you. You are the fickle whim of a drunken George R.R. Martin, smiting and blessing as whims take you. It's all up to you. If you seize the Iron Throne, you can help or hinder whomever you desire. Speaking of whomever you desire, let's start with the character I already mentioned that has some desire on the brain. Let's go for the youngest member of House Nymerian, Adam the Archer. Ash,
Hello.
Who are you? Who's your character? What's your character been up to? How are things going?
I'm Ash. I play Adam Nymerian, the House Nymerian sad boy. Who has been so close to telling the object of his affection how he feels. Our surly house squire Oris, but has not yet actually managed to make a move.
And who do you want to introduce themselves next?
Oh, how about our ward, Sir Vannon?
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Kevin Zarnicki, playing Sir Vannon Rivers, bastard of the Blackwoods and Brackens, and apparently not allowed to gamble anymore. I'm too damn good at it.
They kicked you out of the casino.
Evidently. That was my last part in this game, guys. Anyway, so let's take it over to somebody else with big ass desires. Probably for big asses. Luke.
Big, medium, little, it's all similar. My name is Robert. I'm playing Lucaris, the oldest son and third oldest child of the family. He has been estranged from his family until relatively recently. He's been living in King's Landing. He has participated in the tournament and did okay, and is trying to get used to having his family around and keep them from stabbing the wrong people.
Failing
And
them.
it's going
Who
pretty
would do
bad.
that?
Wrong.
What was his name?
Dan it.
Justice for Dan it.
Speaking of stabbing people, we'll go to the oldest sister.
Dang it.
Dan it. Dan
No,
it.
Dan it.
Right,
Don't forget
Dan it,
his
Dan it.
name.
I'm Felicia Zimmerman. I play Raina Nymerian. I am the heir to the house. I am the eldest twin of the house, and I'm also probably the one. I have the least personality of the two. My personality tends to be more standoffish and
Stoic.
sometimes cold.
I mean,
Threatening.
that's still a personality.
But that we all have our particular places in the family, and mine was not to compete in the joust. That would be my sister, Bela.
Hi, I'm Erica, and I play Bela Nymerian. I am the second oldest child, and a twin to the heir. And I competed in the joust, and I got the furthest of any of us, making it to the final 8 jousters. And I fought well, but I was not really much of a match for Sir Garland Tyrell, which is okay because he's amazing, just in general, and he's really good in the joust too. And if I could, losing to him was much better than losing to any of the less good people I fought earlier on.
And in your defense, you did go into that joust still nursing a wound, and -1 die on everything is a pretty big stinking deal in this game. So, you still lasted longer against him than some of his other opponents in the earlier rounds. So, there's no shame in the tourney game when it comes to losing to a Tyrell in a tournament. You could do a lot worse.
Yeah, it was like having a 25% reduction in my abilities to do anything. So it was significant.
So all in all, the young scions of House Nymerian have performed very well in the joust, but also very well in the tourney proper, because the very weest and tiniest of the Nymerians, Adam, has earned himself the moniker of Adam the Archer, which you've been hearing the last few days from various merchants and grateful small folk who have been cheering Adam's name because Adam took first place in the archery contest, and then skipping down into the corner, which I think I pointed in the right direction for that, the bastard ward of the house, Sir Vannon Rivers, took first place in the horsemanship contest, and some other members of the house took second and third and stuff. So House Nymerian looked all nimbly-pimbly atop their very elegant, agile, and trained steeds. So you were all a credit to your master at arms, the strong cider, and your other mentors back home from among the bannermen of House Nymerian. You guys all got to showcase your horsemanship, your fighting, your archery, your ability with lance and sword and assorted other weaponry. So you guys have all been doing pretty well for yourself. But tonight you are wading back into waters that maybe are perhaps a bit more dangerous to you, where you're perhaps a bit less well trained. And that's going to be this feast invitation. The other day you were invited rather offhandedly, because you guys don't really have a whole bevy of squires and pages to be your kind of default instant messaging service, the way most noble houses do. So instead, the message was kind of delivered by Garland Tyrell on behalf of his grandmother. They let you know that you were invited to this kind of rotating feast in the Red Keep. For all that you rightfully may despise the usurper king, Robert Baratheon, he has a reputation amongst the people of King's Landing and Westeros for charisma and open-handedness and generosity that's been on display with the value of tourney prizes, but also he's made a point of trying to break bread with basically everybody that's got invited to this tournament. So there's opening feasts that you guys were at with this huge crowd, but all through the tourney, he's also been having smaller, more intimate dinners with just a couple dozen people at a time. And dun dun dun, you guys are up. So you had some time to prepare. You had some forewarning, and you knew that it was coming. But still probably have some concerns about it being a little awkward, a little dangerous, and potentially about some secrets and suspicions and all kinds of stuff like that potentially bubbling to the surface. So we left off last session wrapping up the joust and the Squire's joust. Squire's joust is completely finished. Your bastard Squire Oris, in a fit of rage, took first place and then sulked a little more stompily than normal, following the House Nymerian advice to, I believe the exact quote was, fuck 'em, in the delicate ladylike wording of the Lady Olenna, heir to House Nymerian.
I am delicate.
There was an attempt from House Royce to try and get Oris to kind of throw the match, potentially to the benefit of all. But House Nymerian was not having it. Their squires don't lose, at least not on purpose. So that was kind of our last major violence in the afternoon. And then the rest of you had prep to do. And we've handled some of that prep off screen. And you, dear viewers, are just going to be treated to the auditory equivalent of the kind of slow camera pan at the start of a TV episode, or the opening kind of group shot that you know is going to be the cover art of a trade paperback in a comic book, where you're going to see everybody in their cool new outfits. Because the young scions of House Nymerian have had an absolutely ridiculous amount of coin to sling around and a fair amount of swagger in their step all through this tourney. So getting ready for a fancy feast at the Red Keep, we've got some pretty dramatic changes. So let's take it from the top. We'll open with the heir to the house. Setting our stage is outside. You guys are going to be in the kind of villa of the on-site mansion of House Tyrell. So there's this gate with all the Tyrell gilded roses and all that. That's still a very effective gate, but it's got the ornate kind of ivy-looking work. There we go. There's a fine example on Ash's whiskey of the gilded rose of House Tyrell. So it's a very, very fancy kind of villa, mansion, estate thing with a staggeringly beautiful garden, of course, because they have to keep up appearances and expectations. You guys are just kind of milling in it for the moment. Off to one side of the garden are the looming tall, almost disturbingly huge bodyguards of the Lady Olenna Tyrell. They're flanking the doorway leading into the mansion. Sir Garland vanished a moment ago, and several of you, no doubt, enjoyed the view as his tight green trousers as he walked away to go and fetch grandmother, very apologetically, very graciously, like, oh, she only goes anywhere and does anything when she's exactly ready. So, you guys were on time, and she is being pointedly
Fashionably late.
exactly. She's like, well, we'll be ready when I say that we're all
She's
ready.
on her. She'll be ready when she's ready, and she's on
Exactly.
her time, not anyone else's.
So you've
She's doing
got
her contouring.
yeah, she's got to finish up. So you guys have a couple minutes to yourself as you're kind of milling around and waiting for the Lady Olenna, and you're in this gorgeous garden with like this little courtyard that's just lined with rose bushes, and there's crawling ivy along the tops of the walls that almost hides the spikes, but doesn't quite hide the spikes. And that's kind of how Tyrell in a get-go. They're all about the pretty ribbon tied to the sword type of thing. And you're able to kind of look at it, and again, with your party's staggering overall awareness scores, you notice that the beauty never like takes away from the efficiency and security of the place. And that sort of thing. You're like, oh, that's a really ornate gate, but it's also really sturdy. And oh, this is all really well done, but you could certainly muster up some house guards here and control the gate. The plant work isn't in the way of a defense, and and you're able to kind of enjoy that sort of aesthetic plus efficiency. But you're also in some swag new outfits. So let's start with the heir. And how is Lady Raina looking, the heir to House Daimarian? How's she dressed up?
In the first phase, Lady Raina dressed more in a northern style, influenced by Cersei with the long, pointed sleeves and drapes and heavier fabrics. For this one, we're definitely harking back to Dorne. And the skirts of this gown are in narrow panels, multiple layers, with the silver being the predominant color, but like every 5 or so panels is maroon or wine color, and there is a wide belt that is actually the gold with our house sigil on the front, and the top is definitely. It's short sleeved. It's low cut, but it's not like Elizabethan shelves of boob.
It's not hiding everything, but it's not like accentuating things either, right? Kind of that
Correct.
natural,
And,
Dornish, loose-fitting, comfortable aesthetic sound.
Yes, and there's drapey, colorful, like almost veils that I'm using almost as a shawl, and long silver hair is up, and then the top, and then it flows out the back, almost like a pile. I don't know how to do updos. I don't know how to describe them, but it's like a twisted pile of braids, and then the rest of the hair comes out almost like a top knot. And then around the front is a piece of jewelry that's made of silver, and in the middle, in like an oval shape, is an elongated wyvern clutching our spear, and it hangs down with a little tiny jewel touching just right between the brows. That's the only jewelry.
So Reyna is rocking some strong Dornish and Associ vibes in
That's the
kind
point.
of a not quite snub to Kingslander culture, almost, and at least not giving way to it again, like she did at that first official feast. So mixing the styles up in a very artful and kind of defiant fashion, I think you could say. Who do you want to describe their outfit next?
Uh, I'm gonna stick with the girls. I'm gonna go with Bayla.
Okay, so in a big change from her usual very military type of combat outfits, this is much more formal and nice. So she has a blue dress. It's A-line in shape, and it's off the shoulders, so it's kind of like around her arms, and then kind of like across her chest. A little bit of a V in the front, but not like super deep either. Along the top, there's also like an inch around the top where it's like velvet material instead of regular cloth. And in the top, there's like a bodice that like gives some support, but it has some nice design on it as well. It's kind of like oriental fans, kind of like played next to each other in like overlapping ways, and it's in gold thread over the blue. And the dress is kind of like light and flowy down her sides, down to around her ankles. Her hair's like braided long, and then like over one shoulder, so it's like kind of hanging in the front. And jewelry, she has some blue gems on her ears, like about the size of pearls roughly in size. And I had something picked out for jewelry, but Luke had something that he was going to present to me, so I'll let him describe that now if you'd like.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
also,
so-
Luke, if you've got a way to share that picture into chat, feel free to
Yeah.
do so. I don't know if you want to
Um,
post a link or I'll try to post a link. You describe stuff. We'll do it that.
Okay, so first of all, I'll describe what I handed over, and then I'll describe Luke. Luke pulls out a small wooden box sometimes earlier in the day and approaches Bela. I had something commissioned for you on account of the victories that you won. And he pulls out the box and he opens it, and inside is a small pendant. It is an oval shaped, primarily in silver, with inside a large lapis lazuli piece of stone that's been polished to a shine. Inset in the lapis is in silver. Silver inset is a modified version of his own sigil, which is basically the Weavern of the house in profile, except it's clutching two spears, so to represent the second born. And he hands it over to her and pauses for a minute and goes, it's on a silver chain. Now that I think about it, the stone looks a lot like the azure background of the hanged man of House. I had this. The Kingsguard she beat.
Trent.
Trent, thank you. I hope they don't read
Wow.
too much into that. And I'll hand it to
Wink. Maybe they will. But this is beautiful. Thank you. I don't even know what to say. I'm gonna wear it tonight, of course. This is perfect.
you.
Thank you.
Don't need to say anything. I think everyone did well, but you went 3 rounds in the tournament. That's impressive. And it will
So-
really
Yeah,
piss Trent off.
So it seemed pretty appropriate to theme a whole outfit around that color scheme. So we've got the House Nymerian colors on the air. We've got, in their own way, this potentially kind of snub insult blue and gold color scheme coming from the second born with Lady Bela. But yeah, everybody click on that link and check out the image. It looks pretty dope. It's basically what we keep Robert around for. But we also keep Rabbit around to play Sir Lucaris. And how's Luke looking tonight? Did he ignore his own garb in order to play pretty dress up with his big sister, or did he get himself some fancy clothes too?
He would have, except Van parked a wheelbarrow full of money in front of him that he won betting up with his money. So we see Luke. He looks a little bit different. His hair is the main thing that stands out. He has removed the dye from it. He is now standing there with the long, some silver wavy hair. His outfit itself is a deep red with kind of almost coated in a silver thread with a paisley pattern on it. Almost a very Western style, actually. Except the cloth itself is very thin, silkish, very Dornish in the way it fits and blows in the wind. That's wrapped up with a large, thick belt with a house sigil on it. And he has his small sword on his side on the belt. And he's feeling pretty good.
He should.
So far, we're 3 for 3 with every player character's outfit being kind of defiant and kind of proud and kind of an insult to anyone that's looking to be insulted by it. And I am here for this. So let's continue the trend with the youngest and sometimes the kind of snazziest dressing. So let's see if that carries through today also. But how is how is young Adam the Archer looking?
Oh man, don't rub it in. I don't have a sir. Right, okay. I put some effort in. Do you want me to just read Adam's, or do you want me to read Oris's as well?
Well, whichever order you want to do them. Adam, because he was stylish, has also kind of been writing herd for Oris, and also because Adam really wants to just modify one letter in writing herd and Oris. So instead, he's been in charge of playing dress up on Oris this week. So Adam has multiple outfits to describe. So you share them however you want to, Ash. If you pictured them together, that works. If you want to do them one at a time, whatever works for you.
I wrote them separately, so I'll read them both separately. So I'm going to have to slightly look off screen to read. So Adam has picked a high-necked dove grey doublet with darts of silver and black thread that make a sort of undulating geometric pattern across the centre panels. A fine silver chain hangs around his neck and drops to mid-chest level before looping back on itself to attach at the left shoulder, pinned by a small curved wyvern clasp. The clasp attaches the doublet to a silver-coloured silk half-cloak that is so thin it can almost be seen through. His shirt is black linen, the sleeves loose in the main body of the arm, but with long cuffs laced tightly from wrist to mid-forearm. And the top of the collar and a small sort of cloth of silver jabot is just visible over the collar of the doublet. He's matched that with black linen breeches, close fitting round a high waist and from the knee down, but like a little looser in the thigh to give a sort of tapered appearance to the lower legs and the waist, and also for keeping cool and facilitating freedom of movement. Though in his excitement at the design, he has overlooked that it's kind of pointless because of his impaired ability to dance because of his crippled left leg. Meeting the neat lacing at the knee are high grey soft cast leather boots with tiny ornate silver cap on the end of each pointed toe. His silver chain belt is fastened with a silver buckle that matches the wyvern clasp on the cloak, the wyvern kind of curving in a figure 8. And going kind of outdoors between the pavilions and before entering the Great Hall, he's got kind of soft lamb's wool gloves on. And on the index finger of his right hand, he's wearing a silver ring set with a smooth, rounded opal of frankly obscene size.
Obscene.
All
I
right,
love it.
So if Adam has to make any fighting tests against anybody, we'll toss in the damage roll for a gauntlet. as long as you describe yourself as punching them with your right hand. You just invented opal knuckles.
So yeah, he's gone very fancy, mostly traditional style, but with some of his own kind of slant on it.
That's very suave.
And he's gone for very kind of monochrome, kind of blacks and greys and silver, with just the little kind of flecks of color in his jewelry. And he has had some similar fun with Oris, though he's kind of aware now that Oris is quite uncomfortable with the more fancy he looks, the more uncomfortable he is. So he's kind of toned it down a bit for him. He's put him in a royal blue velvet doublet stitched with silver thread chevrons that are kind of cut to sort of accentuate his broad shoulders, over a sky blue wide-armed shirt of a similar cut to his, accompanied by understated black woolen breeches and black leather accoutrements. He's been a bit sneaky though, because he has put on a silver belt buckle has put subtle runes etched into it that match his mother's house, and royal blue ribbon to tie back his hair, and there's sky blue stitching like down the outer seam of the breeches to kind of sort of tie the whole thing together.
Wow.
Did Adam accidentally get Oris like pants and a shirt that are a little too tight, or did he trust in the tailors and stuff and let them? You know?
I mean, I don't think he went for too tight, but I think he went for close fitting.
I just wasn't sure if Adam was taking advantage of the blind trust or not. But yeah, it definitely sounds like
would never take advantage of
No, Oris. I swear this is how they're wearing it now.
Also, it takes two people to put it on, so I guess I'll help.
So it sounds like you've got Oris black and blue and studded all over.
Kinda, yeah. But yeah, he'd have been way too terrified to like actually help him get dressed or anything. That would be too scary. He's going to be as far away as possible when that happens.
Just hyperventilating in the next room. So it sounds like we've got that trend is definitely continuing of kind of defiantly personalized and Dornish fashions, and then colors that are maybe proud of who you are and maybe insulting against who someone else is, and maybe both. So far, our fancy clothes party of daring Westerosi dress up has got a nice, proud, and spiteful theme. And so,
that means it's Vannon's turn.
Yes, let's go see if the trend continues in the bastard ward of the house.
Ravens everywhere.
Sir Vannon Rivers.
So Vannon had this made back when he thought he was going to be taking home all the money he won, before his parent house acknowledged him only long enough to take a third of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
That sucks.
yeah. The style is almost a combination of King's Landing, Riverland, Blackwood, and Dornish, with the sweeping bell sleeves of a noble and a skirt styled somewhere between Dornish robes and battle dress. The whole ensemble is made of the highest quality, subtle yet rich. The colors are a similar scheme to those of his armor, dark grays trimmed in layers of black leather and burgundy satin, particularly at the shoulders, shoulder to sleeve at the cuffs and collar. The rear of the shoulders has a similar feather pattern to his pauldrons in black sand silk, very subtle. The sleeves incorporate the same gnarled tree root pattern in wine red, and a raised and woven embroidery of Mirish lace that twines to the ivory and silver raven ornaments at the wrist. Running at the bottom of the drape are small bracken horses in red gold thread. The sash at the waist is sand silk in the colors of Nymerian, the dragon and spear worked in ebon and silver thread, while the shoulder sash is in Blackwood colors, scarlet with white tree and black ravens. Silver plate fastening trimmed in black leather boots, and hose. So if you want to fuck you,
So once again, a defiant display of who you are, and also a subtle fuck you to others who might not like it. And I absolutely adore that it's been like 15 minutes of describing our outfits and how they're snubbing other people in a polite, socially acceptable way. Because you guys aren't quite showing up, with "fuck you" embroidered into the ass of your breeches or anything.
Oh, I do.
Um,
It's just in Valyrian.
Notes for next time.
it
but
looks
yeah,
prettier that way.
it's
You know, as the kid who lived in the city, I'm also very surprised by this.
I too am very
They're
humbled.
naturals.
He's like, I didn't have to coach them at all. So yeah, everybody is showing up looking pretty swanky. So it's like we mostly have the house colors with the kind of black or gray and red, but then we've got a couple standing out with lots of blue as well.
Yeah.
So it's still, kind of a theme to the group. And someday, when there's an inevitable civil war, you guys can split into two factions, the Reds and the Blues, when you kill each other, and we stagger the episodes that they're every week, and I'm running two campaigns and murder one another. Like, we've got stuff all set for that, so thanks. I mean, nothing. But yeah, so we've got
That
some,
was your preview for next season.
so we've got some cool themes going. Everyone is very, very nattily attired for the evening, but still not quite living up to exactly, Westerosi norms here in the North, because you guys aren't from the North, and the side of your family that was from the North was the blood of old Valyria and the kings and queens of the dragon line of Targaryen, and you're like, fuck you, we wear what we want anyway. Or you're the bastard ward going, yeah, no, this is who I am. Fucking deal with it, with a built-in mic drop literally on your sleeve. So
that would have been a good color scheme. Go with Targaryen colors.
Right.
well, there is still a closing feast in a couple nights,
Oh,
so you guys
Right.
potentially do have another,
I have a chance.
yeah.
My proposal is this: we all dress in red and black for that. All of
That'd be a
us.
pretty big fuck you. For
Okay,
all
That
ju-
would-
just to be clear, we spend all this time trying to get the attention of King Robert Baratheon, and once we have it,
Yeah.
we dress up like fucking Ravenloft just to spite him.
It sounds
That's
Dornish to me.
Can't
I don't
argue with that.
Isn't he right?
Like
But it would be suicidal probably. But
somewhere, Prince Oberyn is like,
I don't know why, but I have an erection right
guys.
now.
oh, he always knows why he has an erection.
Yeah, come on.
So you guys are arrayed in the courtyard of the Tyrell Villa, all kind of giving each other little nodding appraisal looks. We did have one last small change, and we're gonna go back to Felicia as Reyna for this. We already mentioned there was one hair color change in the party, with Lucaris washing the dye out of his hair and kind of flying the house colors with his flowing Targaryen hued locks. And there was also another hair change
Well,
that was
I did not
planned.
force him to do this, okay? I asked
Alright.
Oris if he would consent to dyeing his hair to like our silver for the duration of the rest of this particular tourney, so that to kind of fly our colors and to be recognized as part of our house.
Oris would answer by quirking an eyebrow over Reyna's head, which he could do effortlessly, and just like looking past her at Adam, his fashion consultant. Single queer eye for the bastard guy, and he would just give Adam the look like, huh? Like, should I do? Do we do what your sister says? He gives Adam that look. So we're gonna put the ball in Adam's court. How much does Adam want Oris to dye his hair? Because there are times that NPCs are gonna totally have their own objectives and goals and stuff, but this is not something Oris particularly cares about. So he's gonna trust House Nymerian on this one.
I like her hair the way it is. I mean, Raina, I mean, most houses just put a sigil on their livery. I mean, he's already. We can put him in our colours. I'm just concerned.
I asked him. He doesn't have to. It's not a. I'm not saying let's do this. I asked. So if he doesn't
right.
want to do it,
that's right. I'm just concerned that it might send an unintended message and also clashes with the outfit that I've picked for him.
All right then. Then make sure he is closely barbered.
I will. Yes, of course.
I don't want him to look shaggy.
I would never
If
allow
he
such
keeps,
thing.
I'd rather he be clean shaven.
I
don't want to be.
I would never allow him to look shabby.
Just shaved last week.
We'll give you another pass over. Just make sure it's extra neat. Don't worry about it.
Huh?
All right.
I'm going to try not to worry about it, but be prepared.
We are prepared. Lady Olenna is going to be there. I do not want her to have anything to criticize, or at least be able to only criticize me as a person, not how I look.
All right.
And that includes Oris as an extension of the house. I have the matter in hand, I promise.
So it
Okay.
sounds like, just to be clear, to finish the descriptor with the outfit for Oris, he has been clean shaven.
Clean shaven.
His hair has been
just
kind of trimmed and neatened up, combed, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then in the neat ponytail.
Yeah, it's tied back neatly. Yes.
All right. And that is still a pretty stark difference from his normal look, where by about noon he's got a 5 o'clock shadow, and he did shave like a week ago, so he had a full-on beard going, and normally his hair's just kind of wherever, unless he's getting it out of the way for a fight, so it's still a pretty big difference, and between that and the outfit, he is pretty cleaned up. So all right then. So did anybody else have major cosmetic change? We got the hair for everybody. Anybody else dye their hair, or I think everyone else tends to have a little bit shorter hair.
Yeah.
So nothing fancy, just kind of it's been combed real good like type of stuff. Nothing more dramatic than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's normal. Adam's normally got it like kind of half sort of hanging across his face, so he'll be trying to sweep it back, but it will not behave. It'll just keep sliding forward.
But like
mine hangs long and wavy behind.
Cool.
All right.
I hope so.
And there you all stand, awaiting the precise timing of the Queen of Thorns, the Lady Olenna Tyrell. And just as, you're all standing there kind of eyeballing one another and fidgeting a little bit, perhaps with the hem and the cuffs and the collars of your garb, for those of you that are uncomfortable in this sort of thing, Oris is doing his best not to fidget. He is pointedly quite a bit more comfortable in 30 pounds of steel plate than he is in this finely tailored outfit and that sort of thing. But I think most of you are either in stuff tailored for comfort or are a little more practiced in the fancy stuff. So you've got all that going on, and it's like just as it gets to be a little bit awkward wait, you hear this tap of like a bit of metal on the tile hallways, and it's kind of like when the bear Jew comes pounding his baseball bat in the tunnel during the introduction scene in Inglourious Bastards. only it's a little more intimidating. Just this tip, 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 and you look over, and here comes the Lady Olenna Tyrell with the gilded kind of tip of her cane spiking against the floor of her villa as she shuffles along behind it. Of course, this kind of wizened old woman that is still capable of hauling herself upright with indignation when it's needed. But she is a very old woman that sometimes plays up that age to make her all the more vicious when she doesn't play up her age. But she moves at exactly her pace as she comes walking down. The two guards flanking the doorway are still as statues. They don't like hold themselves upright and stand to attention when she arrives. They just are always standing at attention, like statues of bodyguards that are made just a little too large, because these guys are closer to 7 feet tall than 6. They're big dudes that are they're twins, mirror images of each other. She's referred to them in the past as just left and right because she cannot be bothered to recall which is which. And they just stand there like they don't snap to or anything. They're just already there. And then walking a step behind her is the dashing Sir Garland with his hair pulled back in a very neat and tight ponytail with a golden hair clasp on it that you saw as he left. That's the golden apple of Fossaway, coupled with a gilded rose of his own house. And he's wearing the green and gold of House Tyrell through and through, just these perfectly tailored tunic. It's all very classical kind of Reach stylings, in that it's kind of tailored to look like the gambeson armor that you often wear beneath plate. So it's cut in kind of that style. It's got just a bit of quilting to it to make it look almost like padded armor. So it's kind of a permanent reminder of the martial status of the knights and lords of the Reach that wear it. So it's kind of a chivalrous outfit, and that it's got these cues that are taken from padded gambesons and that sort of look. But it isn't just the gambeson that you wear. So he's in all the green and gold of that, and he's walking along about a step behind her. Yeah, what's up?
I just wanted to add, Luke will smile friendly and kind of, he enjoys her company, so smiles at Lady Olenna, but then gives Sir Garland a serious knightly nod because he is what he is.
He is currently in the process. He's reaching for Lady Olenna's elbow as she's making her way down the 3 steps into the courtyard, and she is fussing him off of her. It's and then they turn, and then they go.
This will get a grid.
And then they go back to looking regal and perfect. But it's just that immediate momentary shift where he is gallantly reaching for her elbow, and you feel like 20 years ago she might have pulled a hairpin out and jabbed somebody with it, for that sort of thing. It's that exact sort of body language. He does not look injured by her refusal to accept his help. It's probably something that happens every time they cross a threshold, right? And they immediately and seamlessly go back to flawless Reach gallantry. So your smiles are warmly returned by Sir Garland. And just as he takes in a breath, and you guys can almost hear that he's about to say, ladies and gentlemen of House Nymerian, allow me to present. And instead, she waves him off just as he takes in the breath and gets ready to talk. And she goes, "Oh, stow it, Garland. They know who I am." Right. Well, go on. And she gestures with the cane. Line up, the lot of you. Let's have a look. And then she
I
approaches
stand
you.
up nice and tall.
She is now wielding the cane like General Patton with his swagger stick. She is no longer using it to walk at all. It is her pointer that she's using. Like, she tells you all where to line up, and then she just starts her way down the line. Who lines up closest to her? Who wants to go first?
Oh, well.
I will
I'll
if,
go for yeah.
if no one else volunteers. Okay,
We're
then I'll let them.
Take the bullet. Or whatever.
Letting who? So it sounds like there was 4 volunteers for.
So Luke goes a step forward, as he tends to, but seeing that that Raina wants to get in there, he will defer to her and let her take this. He's willing to be the target, but if Raina wants to get in there, that's her job.
All right.
You want to get hit first? That's all on you.
We will start with the heir to House Nymerian then.
I curtsy.
And she, like I said, she's still kind of jabbing with the cane, telling you where to stand, and then she very pointedly gives you a long look up and down, squinting unnecessarily to like exaggerate the motion. And she's like, well, I see you found your personal wardrobe instead of dressing up like one of Cersei's hussies. Good. It's a better look on you. Stick with what you know, dear, and stay true to who you are.
Of course, my lady.
Even if that occasionally means killing some Dornish boy, because that was a good look on you also. So, you didn't really win much this week, but I suppose your one victory was good enough, and it certainly got people talking, and I suppose that'll stand as a fair enough warning to anyone I might try to arrange a marriage for that would mistreat you. So, And then she stops insulting you, and after the third very pointedly, like, takes a step away
Okay, yay!
to look at who's next.
One survived, yeah!
Who's up
Her
next?
judgment cannot be escaped, it can only be endured.
I'll step forward.
All right, so next up, we'll go Bela, and she'll once again give you the long up and down look, and her gaze lingers around your torso a bit with kind of the weird little fan kind of corset. I don't. It's not a corset. You called it something else.
I called
but
it
I'm
a
a
boss,
dude,
but
so
it's
I
kind of
call
like
them-
a corset.
I call them all corsets. But she kind of it goes, well, it makes you look a bit less flat than your spear, so I suppose that's a good start. Oh, and good job with your fighting on horses and jabbing folk with sticks. And you poked all the right ones in all the right ways. And I heard you lost to that Garland Tyrell. No shame in that. Terribly good with horses and sticks, those Tyrell boys.
Indeed.
Beat one of the King's Guard, didn't you?
Aye. It was a pleasure.
Well, I suppose that's one way to get all the boys talking and to make sure that King Robert doesn't completely ignore your house. But you didn't win the whole tourney, but you won a few times when it counted, and you lost gracefully to what will no doubt be the champion. So, your outfit looks well enough, I suppose. See you carry yourself appropriately the rest of the evening, my dear.
I will, my lady.
Keep giving me something to work with. And then she turns and steps up to whoever's next. Who's going third?
No, we survived.
Step forward.
All right, so we're probably just going to go in age order then. We'll assume that it's going to be Luke, because Luke's next, and then we'll probably do Adam and then the bastards at the end. We'll keep it in kind of rank order. So Luke, she stops and just kind of gives you a long look. And he goes, I see you've gone for that silly Valyrian hair. Well, I suppose it's better than hiding your silly Valyrian hair. I think the silver looks absurd, but It's what the gods gave you lot to work with. So, middling tourney victories, and, the hair. You clean up well, dear, but just keep it that way, and remember other parts of you. And she points rather pointedly at your, let us say, center of balance and bits just below it with the cane. He goes, see to it you keep other bits just as clean. Let's not sully the goods before I can sell them.
Goodness me.
Of course, milady.
Don't you, of course, me. I know plenty of damage is already done, but I do know you've also been staying in the green tree more than wandering across the street from it. So let's just keep that trend going, at least until I sell you all.
I will do whatever you require.
Good
Smart
attitude. Talk like that to your wife as well, and perhaps the marriage will even last. And then she sniffs disdainfully, and
He looks away
And-
from laughing.
she sniffs disdainfully and lines herself up. And here she does pull herself up to her height a bit more because she can kind of match Adam's. So when she can do that, she does so. She doesn't get to feel like eye to eye with people very often unless she orders them to have a seat or whatever. But she kind of stands up and she gives Adam a look square in the face and just kind of squints at him for a moment.
A pleasure to see you again, my lady.
You've gotten better at lying this week.
It is no lie, my lady.
Gotten a bit better at hiding your fear too.
Sorry, I thought about asking. I thought about it, but I'm not going to. Well, you are a lady of considerable influence. Surely it is only natural that a young man would be somewhat intimidated.
You're placing your words with all the care you showed with your arrows the other day. Good. I told you to find a new hobby besides being the clever one, and you even managed that. Perhaps you are the clever one. Fine work, Adam the Archer.
Thank you, my lady.
Yeah.
As she turns to step up to Vannon, who is next, she gives an airy gesture towards Oris, who's at the end of the line and looking almost as pale as his silver hair would have looked. He's just like waiting for his turn with quite a bit more trepidation than he did in jousting literally everyone under the age of 18 in the city. So she just gives a little wave to Garland, and she's like, go on, talk to him about something shiny and sharp. Distract him like you boys do. And Garland affably smiles and walks up to Oris, and Oris is kind of led away, and they're chattering, and he takes them off to talk to left and right, as she is then turning and lining herself up and leveling the artillery at Vannon Rivers. Oris is off talking to left and right, and it's a little weird to see people taller than Oris. But Garland is just chatting amiably. One of the guards like draws his sword and hands it to Oris, hilt first, and they're just chattering on about shiny, sharp things. Looks like, and then she just gives Vannon a long look, and she goes, "Well, I can see you found your roots."
Very clever, my lady.
Thank you so very much for your approval. I feel myself growing strong already.
Oh,
Jesus.
uh, oh God.
Puns.
Adam's anxious.
I love how Adam is more anxious for everyone else's turn.
So
Any
empathetic.
I got off relatively unscathed. I was waiting for something absolutely withering to hit me.
any retort from Vannon to her playful leaning on her House Tyrell word?
I think I had a retort.
Good. And she'll just glance over the outfit again. You know, I heard you cut a dashing figure in the saddle and beat a bunch of highborn girls and the like.
Luck, unfortunately.
Winning where you can is terribly important in the Game of Thrones, dear boy. Take what victories life gives you and show them off. You won at a tourney in King's Landing, and it's all silly cock-twaddle nonsense with saddles and spears and the like, but a victory is a victory. Lean into them. You mightn't get many.
That's
Polite
damn fine
nod.
advice.
Oh, and leave your hair as it is. Tying it back is for folk with a bit less First Men blood. The wild look suits you, boy.
My thanks.
And she then gives you another kind of appraising up and down look. Well, and she kind of backs away towards kind of the middle of the group, around where Luke was standing, kind of mid row, and kind of gazes up and down each of you again. He goes, yes, you've cleaned up well this look, gotten your feet under you, and that's important in King's Landing, but it's even more important in the Red Keep. Mind your manners around Robert, and that doesn't mean follow etiquette. It means mind your manners around Robert. The usurper's a sot and a drunkard, so act however it is he's acting, but suit it for whoever else is around. He values courage, and you lot have started showing that this week. Let's not stop now as we go beard the stag in his den.
I believe that we're very ready, my lady.
Now, about your giant bastard. I heard he won something for beating up children this week, so I don't suppose we could convince you to let him stay here and not coming to dinner.
Adam?
From the look at his face, Luke has no problem with this, but does not say anything.
Adam has rather been appointed our Oris handler for the last several days.
Using the fancy one. Smart. Go on, then. How would you handle it, and why do you think I want him handled? Quick, be clever, clever one.
Sorry, exactly what is she asking?
She said, using the fancy one as the handler, good. And then she said, well then, how do you think we should handle it, and why do you think I want him handled? Go on, be clever, clever. Or something like that.
Oh, right. Sorry, I just kind of wanted to check, just like, is she referring to him, like, nearly taking that fight too far?
It seems like she's referring to not wanting to just take him to the Red Keep. Like, she was kind of testing, she's glancing at the lot of you, not just,
right,
boring into Adam, but, she's kind of testing the waters, seeing why it is you might think she doesn't want Oris to come.
One might phrase it as have quite the right look.
Who is it you think he might look like?
Well, I couldn't help but notice his striking resemblance to Owen.
Who is
We lost you, or at least I lost you after the word resemblance, Ash.
Tamaya Stone?
To my stone.
Yes.
Yeah. Like
did
the
the
thing
lot
is,
of
like
you
I'm
piece that
like
together?
Adam is deliberately saying right. I'm trying to kind of convey that he's using careful wording, but he is in a roundabout way saying a particular thing.
Well done.
She plants her cane in front of her, with the same sort of air of certainty that you have seen warriors plant a banner in a battlefield, right? Like they just kind of chunk. Like this is the spear, this is the banner. It's time for the fight to start, right? She kind of just puts her cane in front of her and leans on it, with that kind of ringing metallic clack. And she goes, most of you lot are cleverer than most people think you look. So I'm sure you've noticed by now that your looming oaf of a squire is the bastard son of King Robert Baratheon, first of his name, yada yada yada, who just can't keep his dick in his wife.
If you say so, my lady.
To be fair, my lady, with any bastard, there was a pretty good chance that was the case.
My lady, forgive me. I was trying to be subtle.
Don't worry, dear. The walls have ears, but the ears in these walls are mine, so we can speak plainly for perhaps the last time this evening and perhaps the last time this week. Oris is Robert's bastard. I understand you've been visited by House Royce a few times, so I gather you've been told who his mother is, or perhaps was. It's hard to tell with Silent Sisters if they even really quite count anymore.
I'm a lady.
Yes.
Lady Olenna. May I ask you something?
Oh, right. Sorry.
Olenna. Lena.
Sorry.
It's Olenna, but yeah. She points with the cane at you, at Luke, like to go ahead.
I had suspected this, although why would grandfather care? Is there anything you could share about that? The arrangement he has with Willie Will?
The details of the dealings between Little Makey and that shaggy hedge knight are between Little Makey and that shaggy hedge knight. I'll not spill another man's secrets for him, but we can hardly call your brutish half-giant squire's birth much of a secret if we're going to put the two of them in a room together. He has been freshly shorn, and that will help some. And I suppose his little prize for beating up children all week would make it unseemly if we didn't bring him to the dinner tonight. So we'll take him. But let's do what we can to keep him and Robert on opposite ends of the room and the like. I'm afraid that those who are inclined to notice such things have probably already noticed such things. He beat up the squire of John Arryn, I hear.
While Sir Barristan was sitting right next to Sir Arryn.
Oh, Selmy's dull as a mace. It's not him I'm worried about. But
John.
the hand of the king and, the hand of the king and the brothers of the king are another matter entirely. Luckily, as I'm sure you've all heard, Renly has his hands full in the Reach right this moment. But Stannis is here, and his dull, lifeless eyes are as sharp as any you might run across. So,
if I may.
Please do.
I have need for a new sword. Maybe Oris can make an appearance, a brief one, and then he can go fetch that.
Oh, I see what you mean. Devise some reason for him to only be present as long as is polite before?
I mean, he's our squire. He will fetch a weapon if we ask him to. And I have a need roll of one.
It's considered impolite for people to leave these sort of soirees early.
Before the king.
A proper feast, perhaps, because the comings and goings of a single squire are a bit less remarkable. But in this smaller dinner affair, I'm afraid in for a penny, in for a pound. And multiple pounds, as the case may be. Very well, we will take him, but let's just try to keep him away from Robert. And for God's sake, don't let him try to pound any pebbles into that Maya stone.
Oh my god.
We still have a few barrels of house wine, my lady. Maybe those should be available to keep attention fuzzy.
No, Robert has plenty of booze, I'm sure.
Very well.
I will see to it personally that stays out of trouble.
This is all complicated by the fact that Oris doesn't even know.
I'm sure that we could interrupt the Maester's conclave and have them work on a long, illuminated manuscript listing the things that Oris doesn't know. But yes, I'm certain that his parentage would be near the top. But I'll again leave the shaggy hedge knight and little Makey to break the news to the boy themselves as best they see fit. Let us instead, as women, and this, she's not looking at, Adam and Vannon and Luke as she says it. She's replying to Reyna. She's not like calling you all women. But she goes, instead, let us as women work on preemptively cleaning up their mess. If I'm going to marry you lot off, you'll need the practice. So let's just minimize the damage that the oaf will do, and do what we can to otherwise be charming this evening, or
And
bold, or
I will
charmingly
talk to
bold.
Oris about the girl you're concerned about.
Don't forget, we're not all Valyrians, dear. Remember which way you're supposed to talk to him about her. Right then.
Yeah, of course. Westerosi way.
Right then, and she kind of clacks her cane to the evenly, the smoothly paved, or not really paved, but I guess cobbled surface twice, like a clack, clack. And over her shoulder, you can see Garland like seamlessly wrapping up their conversation and giving Oris a pat on the shoulder. And like this whole time behind him, you can see Oris like standing and comparing his height to left and right. And at one point, the three of them were reaching out and comparing the length of sword arms. And then like Garland was showing them some like parries and ripostes, and so, like they're just doing like a sword dude talk back there. But as soon as the ting ting rings out of her little double tap on the cobbles, Garland tosses his head to laugh gallantly at some little joke made by left or right, and then gives Oris a clap on the arm and tosses his head and leads Oris back towards the rest of you. And Oris is just kind of following rather placidly, like a draft horse that doesn't really mind that it's being led type of thing. It's just he's looking rather un-Orisy for a moment because he was just
trying to get his attention,
hanging out with sword dudes doing sword dude talk. And then the group is reunited. And she waves for the lot of you to head to the doors, and there a series of carriages are waiting with Tyrell retainers at the I guess not the helm, in the driver's seat of the carriage, I suppose. But yeah, she has a trio of carriages awaiting the lot of you, and she once again fussily waves off Garland's attempt to help her up the little steps into the carriage.
Stubborn old coot.
And so yeah,
Luke approaches the last carriage in the chain, and as he gets in, he looks around and says, "Oris, join me."
Oris will clamber up. There's room for probably one more in that carriage, especially if the one more were to be Adam, who's the little one. So
Yeah.
that it can work out.
I
And
mean,
then that leaves.
unless, like, tells me I can't go, but
Yeah,
You
she
didn't-
if he doesn't
as-
stop me, I'll be clambering in.
Yeah, as long as you're not trying to get into the Lady Olena's carriage, she doesn't care. And Oris is just assuming this is all fancy castle folk jockeying for stuff, so he's not going to tell anybody where to go or anything like that. So, yeah, you are free to seat yourselves as desired. So we'll do a quick role play for the ride up with Luke, Adam, and Oris, and their last one, and Vannon and the twins. You'll be in the center carriage, so we'll jump cut to you guys in a second after this one.
And this means you get to ride with Bela.
Yeah, as we see the carriage, Luke is glaring at Adam. You left the girls with Vannon.
Is there? Why is that a problem? What could they possibly encounter that Vannon couldn't handle, but I could?
Oh, there are so many things, my brother. It is fine. I, however, wish to talk to Oris briefly. I saw he was eyeing a young lass, a rather large one, actually, at the tourney grounds. Maya Stone, was that her, Oris?
Oris flushes red and kind of glances guiltily between both of you. And he goes, I wasn't eyeing nobody. I just hadn't seen a girl that tall before and wearing breeches. And that's all. It was good
This
breeches.
is a place of no judgment, Oris.
When the
Except there
maiden is when the maiden is made flesh, there's no judging looking Oris. However, I want to talk to you about something briefly.
I've done it before. I don't need no instructions from you. When Wooly Will was pretty sure I was 16, he took me out on what we thought might be my name day, and I was made a man of at this brothel. So I don't need you telling me where nothing goes or the like.
No. I was going to tell you where things should end up and where they shouldn't end up. It sounds like Wooly will maybe discuss that with you already.
I'm not gonna father no bastards if that's what you're worried about. I'm not gonna do to no other girl what was done to my mom.
Very well. I give Oris a nice nod, and our talk is done.
He is satisfied.
Is Ash
Adam.
gonna do anything is Adam
Oh.
gonna do anything besides looking mortified
Uh,
during
that
all
actually
this?
brings up a good point, Adam. You spent your formative years up north. Did the boards
White
up there
Harbor.
do something similar for you?
Pardon?
Have they
No, I
taken you out?
genuinely didn't hear you.
Oh, you spent your formative years up north. Did the lords up there take you out to celebrate your name day in such a way? Have you not a woman?
No.
Oh, there's plenty of town.
I was. Well,
Brother, are you okay?
I was more focused on training, I suppose.
Hmm. Is it not something you want?
Oh God, this ride is so long. Oh, I immediately regret.
You may have spent a lot of time
marriage.
up north, brother, but we are Dornish.
No,
We don't have the same hang-ups as the Northerners.
I know. Though I have spent exactly as much time at White Harbour as I did at Wyvern's Rest. So I'm sort of literally at two worlds at the moment. It's just not a thing that really. It's just not a thing that's really crossed my mind.
I understand. I
I
mean, not the first thing you said, not the second thing.
I confess.
It seems like it's been so long since I've been home. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
No, that's all right. I just, well, God, this is embarrassing. I fear I might. Well, I don't know what I would do. I would just panic probably. I can't even stand and be assessed by Lady Olenna without being terrified. So
Luke puts a hand on his shoulder. I'll tell you what. You don't worry about any of that. We'll find you a nice Dornish woman, and she'll do everything for you.
all right, Luke.
But yeah, I understand how you feel, though.
Can we perhaps save it for another time, though? I'm not dressed for it tonight.
I didn't mean tonight. Like tomorrow, maybe.
Okay.
Actually, there's some Summer Islander girls at the place I used to like, and they are. Oh, we'll discuss it later.
Oh, yes, fine. Yes,
Flexible? Adventurous? Gorgeous?
Well,
Poor Adam.
beauty is one of life's great joys.
I know the accident robbed you of use of your leg, but that should not limit you in what you want and what you do as much as you think it should. You won that archery contest. You blew, I don't know how many people away. That was impressive.
Thank you. I'm quite proud of that. It's true. I do worry about what anyone who I try to be close to will think of that.
If after that display of archery, if anybody judges you for that leg, they don't deserve to be that close to you.
Oh,
Good brother.
And if they need a good kicking for it, you just tell me. Or
And
as
Oris
kids
will be
do,
there, and he'll kick the
companionable
shit
nut.
out of him, I guess. And I give Oris kind of one of those like forearm grasp and not. And unless Adam wants anything, scene is done.
look, thank you.
Oris
Yeah.
will.
of course.
Yeah, there will probably be some quite anxious glances towards Oris during that, but probably will have gone right over his head, I expect.
He was kind of studiously looking out the carriage window while you two were having the brotherly talk, because he knows he isn't one of the brothers. He's like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be listening to this. Did they forget I was here like Lady Olenna did? Lady Olenna never insulted me. She forgot about me. I don't want to push my luck. I won't remind them that I'm here, just like I didn't remind Lady Olenna I'm here. So yeah, he was just kind of pointedly looking out the carriage window instead of, you know.
Yeah, I think Adam has obviously panicked, but as soon as anyone has latched on to it being about anything other than what it actually is, he's like, yeah, that's definitely it. It's definitely the leg. It's definitely that, and being bookish. You know, that's
Luke looks around.
Probably the reason I'm scared of women.
Luke looks around and notices how much comfort Oris seems to give Adam, and thinks to himself, I'll get them both laid. That should help.
That'll make things better.
They'll go in together, buddy system.
Last
That'll
try.
help.
And then we will have the camera pan away from the third carriage, show the carriages making their way through the streets of King's Landing towards the Red Keep. And then the camera will zoom in on the second carriage. What kind of sex talk is going on in that one?
It's a very good question.
Dry as the county, my man.
So what are we up to in the second carriage with Vannon and the twins?
So you think Danet's gonna come up during this whole time we're here? I mean, last time we went to dinner. There was a huge
that was
scene,
right out.
right?
Yes, there was. Yes.
And now we did the duel. You defeated him, and then he died. And now we're coming
Yes.
back to the Red Keep.
Well, I don't think anyone will start anything. I mean, they might. I don't know. Maybe we'll. If it's brought up, I think it'll be in a roundabout ways, like in Lady Olenna ways.
Yeah. But really though, who do you think killed him off? Like, who do you think finished that kid?
Whoever set up the slaughter of his small folk.
Probably.
I-
Oh, that would make
I
sense.
have no idea. I don't know who their. I don't know what their long game is. I don't know what their ultimate goal is, but they destabilized Danet enough that old Lord Danet had a stroke or something. I mean, his heart gave out and he died, which made Adam the Lord, and then manipulated him into accusing us and calling for the duel.
Do you think maybe we should have looked more into the mysterious nature of his death afterwards in these past few days? Like, I don't know.
I followed up.
Really?
I did like send a message to the Maesters asking, why he died, because he was not at death's door at the end of our duel. I don't know what complications of his wounds had caused it, and they have not gotten back to me to say anything. I don't know if they've decided that it's none of my business or because they suspect me of skullduggery.
As a quick out-of-character reminder, they did reassure you that they would answer before the tourney's end. But there was some disagreement amongst the maesters of the conclave, and they would not share information until they had reached a conclusion.
That's right. They didn't know. They weren't sure. You were arguing still. And maesters can argue a long time.
Yeah, it's kind of an academic thing where they were like until we've decided who's right, we're not going to talk about it so that everybody thinks we always know what we're talking about. Right? It's that sort of academic double talk was the vibe you got from your response. But they did say that they would tell you before
the end
of the tourney / week's end, that sort of thing. So it wasn't the answer wasn't anything like there's no way I'm going to tell you that, baby killer, or whatever. It was there's still some disagreement, and we won't be telling anyone until we're certain.
But didn't Lord Fannin, didn't you say that you went to the Maester's little mini conclave super convention at some point?
I don't think we actually played that out, though, did we?
No. So I'm wondering if maybe you overheard something while you were there.
He did not. They don't have their. We're not sure what happened. Medical conversations where random people are going to overhear them in their academic disputes. Vannon did get some book recommendations and that sort of thing. That was the main thing that he was asking them about. He didn't get all of his questions answered because there are some question answers that I have planned for role playing out in game. So some of the not answers or delayed answers you guys got were not answered or were delayed for a reason, so we could do it on camera. But no, you don't get to just. You didn't just happen by while a bunch of maesters were like drunkenly yelling about exactly what killed Adam Dannett or anything like that. Unfortunately.
You're implying that doesn't happen.
In other words, I'm afraid not, my lady.
And I don't know. I mean, the only possible member left of the house is the daughter who's been missing for years,
Months.
months.
Yeah, it was a couple to several months ago. The nearest you told, because remember, houses Dannett and Nymerian aren't on great terms, so it's not like you got official notice or whatever. And maybe they didn't tell you the daughter went missing because they half-assedly suspected House Nymerian of taking her or whatever, you know. But by the time that you guys heard about it, she had already been missing for a few weeks. But yes, Iris Dannett, the
how old
only
is she?
other member. She is roughly of an age with you lot. She's a year or two older than Adam, so 20-ish. Adam was 7, or Adam Dannett.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
The other Adam.
Yes, her brother Adam, the one that
not
Reyna,
So-
the one that Reyna killed in front of the king and stuff.
So she was head of the house though until she went missing. Is that right?
No.
She was heir until she went missing,
And then Adam
yeah,
Dannett became heir, right?
yes, when
Correct.
she kinda like she went missing, so she wasn't like dead. You guys
Oh,
don't
okay.
know that the late Lord Dannett ever officially said Adam is heir,
But then the late Lord Dannett
when
got lighted.
when the late Lord Dannett did pass away, though, Robert said, "All right, well, Adam, you're it, because I've got to make somebody Lord. We can't find your sister. You're here, and you're also here in King's Landing." So he made Adam Dannett Lord. You
Okay.
don't know if the late Lord Dannett ever like officially proclaimed anything or whatever, because again, you guys don't really get the Dannett news. You
Not
don't
anymore.
have that. Yeah. So yeah, it was Lord Alfric. Alfric was the late Lord Dannett. But you know, in Dornish custom, and they were Andal blooded, but in Dorne, you know, that Iris Dannett would have been heir and would have become the lady. She went missing. You guys aren't sure why or how or exactly when. A little after that, old Lord Alfric passed away from something, heart attack or stroke or what have you.
Well, I
Young
still
Adam.
suspect the Ironwoods. They have a motive in that they could easily manipulate Adam into doing this, and then when he dies from the duel, then they have no heir now, and so they just
Right.
inherit
That
all
lands
these
in
lands.
limbo, so it would revert to the Lord, the next Lord up.
Yeah, it
That's-
goes back to the.
They're the only people who have motivation, as far as I know, and so
Quilone
I blame them.
Renon.
what's that?
It's Valerian for who profits.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Technically,
agree.
we
Van.
could profit.
Who?
We could profit.
I don't. Maybe like it's not like the land's gonna go to us. Doesn't. I mean, someone might think we'd be bitter about them being given to the Ironwoods, like, but
And
That's
to
not
be
a-
clear, you guys as a house absolutely were bitter about the lands being given to the Ironwoods. Grandpa Maker redirected the streams and rivers to no longer flow to Dannett lands once
Yes.
the farmlands were lost to you. So it's not that some people might think we were. It's like we were very openly
Well,
bitter.
yeah, but
yeah.
Keep in
we
mind,
weren't bitter with the Dannets. Like it wasn't Dannet's
Well,
fault.
right. It was
and keep in mind, the gods say we're innocent of this crime.
That's
Well,
important.
right? Well, of course,
Yes.
but like, there's one thing about like having like the face of being innocent, like legally, but like everyone's gonna talk
This-
right on the back channels, and
The
Exactly.
seventh said.
Hey, you're not here.
I know. I'm just out of character to remind me. You're right,
And,
though.
but yes,
and we,
I don't know. Like,
you're right.
Like I don't know what we would have to gain at striking, like at wiping out the entire damn household. Like, okay, so we win that victory, and what does that gain us?
Nothing.
Nothing other than they don't exist. But it's not like
Suspicion.
we don't get their land back. So
Right, exactly. But some people, I don't know, maybe ignorance would move them to think that we just did it just to win.
just to wipe them out.
Mm.
If we can't have the Dannett house, no one can.
To be fair, it's a very Valerian way of thinking.
Well, some of us do have some Targaryen blood, and that could have manifested.
But it did not, because we have nothing to do with
No,
this.
perish the thought.
And
Uh,
grandfather Makey is not, I don't think he has a network of strings to pull that would pull this off.
He's got a Leah.
it is also a very Willish thing to do, which remember is the grandmother of most of you. House Will is known for being decidedly Dornish in all the worst Dornish stereotypes. During the first Dornish War, they showed up at the wedding of Sir John Caffrin and Alice Oakhart, and they castrated the groom, dishonored the bride, and sold her into slavery, killed Lord Orkhart, killed most of the wedding guests, all kinds of shit like that.
So it's the first Red Wedding.
Yeah. So House Will is known for vindictive, dishonorable
Ooh.
behavior.
Those
And
wacky wills.
And so is, kind of that Targaryen temper. So you guys are an artisanal blend of pride and spite.
Artisanal.
Is where I'm going. You are a locally sourced, completely organic, farm-to-table, perfect mixture of poor repute and vengeful. So
Well, okay. Yes. I do expect that if we hear anything, it will be whispery and it will be through implications. And we will decide how to respond at that time.
Very well.
I'd like to say that we'll ignore it, but I know myself. I'm not certain I will.
Very well.
I love
Right?
that her great leader pep talk isn't we will ignore that slander. It's we will respond to that slander for sure in
great.
some way. However, my heart tells me at the moment. So yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's more honest this way.
She's setting realistic expectations. All right,
Sir
then,
Van, you've
any-
been quiet so far. What's on your mind?
There's little enough to say, my lady.
Very well.
All right, then. It sounds like the plotting carriage has gotten as anxiously quiet as the party carriage. Meanwhile, in the first carriage, Lady Olenna is just doing lines of blow and having a good old time on her way up there to the feast.
Well, no, that's the party carriage. isn't
Whoa.
it?
Yeah, carriage 3 is just the anxiety carriage.
Whoa, Lena, slow down.
All right. Any other particular plans for carriage-based roleplay?
I'm good.
You're not
Yeah.
going to get a flirt
All
scene
right.
in front of her sister, the heir to the house.
No.
I am so disappointed.
There's
As
a man
Reyna.
who doesn't want to get detoned or stabbed, as they say in the local.
Or I mean, just some polite conversation, or
Can't help it.
you don't have to be you don't have to be Lord Flashheart or anything.
His
But
voice
it's-
goes all soft.
So,
Vannon
I've
Vannon
got
has
absolutely-
gotten.
Sorry.
Vannon is. Oh, sorry. You go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Adam has absolutely no like high ground to criticize anyone for not like trying to woo someone.
Oh.
No, Vannon is mostly gone quiet and is gazing with vague bitterness out the window from time to time.
Oh.
That's about all he's got going.
Brooding.
Standard bastard stuff.
Yeah. I'm not sulking, I'm brooding.
If only a woman could tame that wild heart of his.
Has
If
he
only.
been shrunk?
All right, then. We are going to have the camera, our imaginary, cool drone-mounted cinematic camera, pan away from the three carriages then, just in time to angle away and above them, and watch as all three ride through the tremendous gates to the Red Keep, the beating heart of King's Landing, and as such, all the Seven Kingdoms. And we're going to go ahead and take our break just a few minutes early. And when we get back from this break, we will be jumping straight to noble introductions as the young scions of House Nymerian and their noble escorts and accompanies from the Reach are entering the Queen's Ballroom for tonight's feast. So make sure you guys go grab some snacks. Don't come back hungry, because we've got a 30-dish meal coming your way. We will see you guys and gals and players and viewers and everybody else in about 10 minutes. So we'll see you shortly.
Bye.
Live. And now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Westeros. When we left off about 10 minutes ago, the party carriage, the Tyrell carriage, and the murder carriage were rolling their way through the streets of King's Landing. One of them not actually being a party, just being anxiously discussing sexuality in front of your big brother and your crush. One of them was not actually having any murder going on. It was just discussing past murders and potential conspiracies and stuff. The Tyrell carriage, as far as you know, is absolutely still just crammed full of Tyrells, which means it's got a pretty high status score up there in the lead. And you don't know if there's been any murder or sex going on up there, but you hope not, because you tend to both like the Lady Olenna and Sir Garland, but also the Lady Olenna is Sir Garland's grandma, so you don't want there to be any murder or any fucking going on up in the carriage numero
Please no.
uno. That said, all three carriages have rolled through the looming entrances to the Red Keep, the heart of King's Landing and the seat of power in all the Seven Kingdoms and Westeros. You are able to dismount once again to the sight of Sir Garland offering some assistance to the Lady Olenna. Here in public, she graciously accepts it and pats his arm and calls him a good boy as she is helped down out of the carriage. And the lot of you make the short walk through the halls of the Red Keep, where it feels like your every footstep is kind of echoing and ringing with history. And can't help but remember, those of you with strong Valyrian blood in particular, this is supposed to be yours. Like, this is supposed to be your family's. This was a keep raised by your people. And it's only really been these last couple decades that it belongs to somebody else. So it's not in the family anymore. And
That's a shame.
it just looks a little off somehow with Baratheon and Baratheon Lannister stuff hanging up. You know, those banners.
Single word
you know.
escapes Luke's lips, and that is home.
So it's got the crowned stag of House Baratheon instead of the righteously furious three-headed dragon of Targaryen, which hung for centuries in these halls. And now you're on your way to the Queen's ballroom, which is now Queen Cersei Lannister's. And that probably doesn't sit real well either.
They've redecorated. I hate it.
I hate it.
And you all, to varying degrees, because you were all home to varying degrees, but you grew up on stories from Lord Makar talking about how the dragon skulls used to be prominently on display, and things like that. And of course, they're not any longer. You catch just a glimpse of the Iron Throne as you walk past the throne room proper. And the Lady Olenna, the slow tapping of her cane, which itself kind of echoes through the hallways rather pointedly, announcing the arrival of the Tyrell and Nymerian retinue, as it were, slows down and stops outside the door to the Queen's ballroom. This is not the proper feast that you guys attended earlier in the week, with just about everybody invited. As a smaller affair, it is nominally going to be less formal because Robert Baratheon is just less formal any chance he gets. But you do hear Lady Olenna mutter to a page at the door that scurries away, and then she waits and she kind of gives you an offhanded comment over her shoulder. Dear me, it's dreadful. They've got that no-good Pycelle doing the introductions. He's older than my teats.
Oh.
Are her teats older than herself?
The rest of her?
Who knows?
I mean, no.
Is there a dissonance of age?
There are many strange magics.
There
to
certainly
these.
can be a dissonance in age between teats and the person.
I mean, this is true. I mean, she's just an uncouth old lady, really. So
She's been to a shy.
And so, after waiting patiently for...
it's like when Lucerys complains about the queue for the brothel being as long as his dick. It's a sort of, it's an uncouth exaggeration.
But it's
Immediate entry.
So you've got to wait about a minute, and then you hear, as you've heard a few stages of the tourney, this kind of reedy, watery voice of Grand Maester Pycelle lifts itself up with all the formality that he can muster, which is rather a lot of formality. And you hear... the Lady Olenna Tyrell of Highgarden, mother to Warden of the South, Mace Tyrell, Lord of the Reach, accompanied by her grandson, second born, Sir Garland the Gallant, Sir Garland Tyrell of Highgarden. And the pair of them walk in, arm in arm, with Garland lifting his free hand. He's often kind of casually walking around with it on the hilt of his sword, as becomes a knight. But he lifts it to give a few little kind of pageant perfect waves and smiles to the people inside. At a quick glance, you see a couple dozen folk. We'll give you a fuller list as you make your way in. And as the two of them are making their way in, he just continues. And it looks like he's introducing the last batch all in one go. And you see that Lady Olenna and Sir Garland are making their way through the Queen's ballroom towards the royal table where you see King Robert on his feet and kind of gesturing for them to come on up and that sort of thing. So it looks like you're just going to be expected to follow. But you hear the reedy voice of Grand Maester Pycelle raise itself again. He goes, "And from Wyvern's Rest, the seat of House Nymerian in Dorne, unaccompanied by the Lord Maekar Nymerian, and in his stead his granddaughter, the Lady Olenna Nymerian, and her twin, a contestor in the joust of the Princess Marcella's name day tourney, the Lady Bela Nymerian, and their brother, knighted by the hand of the Red Keep's Master-at-Arms, Sir Aaron Santagar, is Sir Lucaris Nymerian, contestor in the Princess Marcella's name day tourney. And also Adam Nymerian, Adam the Archer, champion of the Bowman's contest in the Princess Marcella's name day tourney, joined by ward and retainer, champion of the horsemanship contest in the Princess Marcella's name day tourney, Sir Vannin Rivers, and their squire and champion of the squire's joust in the Princess Marcella's name day tourney, Oris Waters.
Oh my god.
Like, you know that you could have already been up there and like bro-fisting Robert Baratheon.
Yeah.
But it is not until he is done completely that he reaches out with one trembling, wrinkled, veiny hand and gives you this gesture that makes it okay for you to advance. The Lady Olenna has been keeping a meter with his slow announcement with the tap of her cane, so that she has been adjusting their pace. And you see that Sir Garland has been stopping to speak to a knight or two on the way up there, so that it doesn't look like an awkward, uncomfortable thing for them to have adjusted the pace. And you are waved into the door, and you see, and here we're going to do a quick guest list kind of as your way to the front. At the rear of the room is the inimitable Grand Maester Pycelle in all his authority, glory, volume, and haste. And accompanying him is a young acolyte of the Maesters, who seems to have more than his fair share of Summer Islander blood. And you recognize him as Alaras, who you noticed earlier in the week. He seems to be a young lad, 15 or 16 years old, with dark Summer Isles blood. And you remember him having a faint Dornish lilt. And he is standing a step away from Grand Maester Pycelle and shuffling through an assortment of papers and offering them to the Grand Maester, yada yada. Seems to be kind of squiring for the Grand Maester in a way. As you clear the doors, Bela, you can't help but notice Sir Meryn Trant standing in his gold and white lacquered armor, helmet on, which is kind of a signifier that Kingsguard is on duty. So just to one side of the door, stand there with his hand on his sword belt, and his free hand kind of thumb tucked in his
Battery
sword.
low.
Sword belt right next to it. Just impassively, but balefully glaring at you on one side of the door.
Bella, get close so we can see your necklace.
Charging battery.
And,
subtly.
and Sir Vannon, you can't help but notice on the other side of the entrance door is the similarly attired and similarly glaring Sir Boros Blunt of the King's Guard, with his arms openly crossed across his ample chest, because he is a big-boned guy. He's not just got a belly on him, he's a big dude. And he's just openly arms crossed, and you can just barely make out a sneer, as though he's the one that won your joust, as you come walking in. So you see the pair of Kingsguard that are helmeted and kind of on duty.
What's his last name?
Blunt.
Then he did win the joust. He wins everything. Bastard joke, not very funny.
It's all right. We've got also kind of milling around towards the far end of the room, which is a vague signifier of social standing. The closer to the king, the better, even at this sort of feast. But you guys make out a grizzled, sort of mercenary sort that you've seen around before, and you've heard of him this week, particularly in preparation for the melee, with some of your asking around. It's Lothar Brune, of the Brunes of Brown Hollow, which is just a knightly family. They're not even a full-on noble family. But he is wearing what looks very clearly to be like a sellsword's finery, right? Like it's his good outfit of traveling clothes. There's just like one spot that's patched, and that sort of thing. So it's traveling clothes, but they're cleaned. He has cleaned himself up. He looks freshly shaved and bathed and that sort of thing. And he's got a small patch on his shirt, which may have genuinely started as just patching a hole in the shirt, that does have the bear paw sigil of the Brunes of Brown Hollow. But you remember, he's not even a knight. He's just not even really a hedge knight. He's below hedge knight status.
Free rider.
But, he's here for the melee, and King Robert's here for the melee. So it's apparently enough, but he must be a swordsman of some repute, and a fighter of some valor to get this sort of invitation. It's King Robert, so it's not unusual for him to invite good brawlers that aren't necessarily highborn. And then, not terribly far from him, sitting a few seats away at a table, you do recognize Maya Stone. And she has been cleaned up, which you suspect was probably rather resentfully. Her hair has been trimmed. It was shorn kind of sloppily before, in a "this is cut enough to be out of my eyes" sort of way. And now it's kind of what we would consider a pixie cut, where you can at least tell it's been done on purpose. It's still a little scandalously short on a woman, but it has been cleaned and trimmed and styled and that sort of thing. And she's kind of the next lowest born. And she's gazing a little bit wistfully at the next seat over, who you'll recognize her friend, and the start of a proper kind of regional contingent. Because it looks like there's a fair number of Vale folk in attendance tonight. And she's sitting near her friend, the Lady Miranda Royce of the Gates of the Moon, daughter of Lord Nestor Royce. And you remember they were hanging out and socializing quite a bit prior to the horsemanship contest. Seated near her and laughing at some joke that has the Lady Miranda jiggling in a fashion that's rather pleasing to the eye, and that she seems to be quite aware of, is Sir Brendan Tully, the Blackfish, currently serving as the Knight of the Bloody Gate, one of the most renowned fighting men and retainers of the Vale, despite, of course, being a Riverlander by birth. But he still seems to be hanging about with some of that Vale contingent that arrived a little bit late and met up for the horsemanship contest. Seated near them and pointedly not looking towards the lower born half of the table, as though perhaps he's avoiding someone's gaze, is young Michael Redfort, a squire that you may recall from the Squire's Joust the other day. And
I
he
don't know
is
where that is.
pointedly listening in to his knight, Sir Lynn Corbray of Heartsholme. He is resplendent and yet somehow still sinister in the black, white,
Super.
and blood red of House Corbray. Their sigil is a trio of ravens with hearts in their claws on a white field, and he runs this kind of monochromatic look where he's just wearing whites and blacks except for splashes of blood red here and there. So like he's got slits in his sleeve with like red silks kind of leaking out through the black of his top. That's right. So some red accents here and there. And he's got Lady Forlorn off his belt and leaning against the table right in front of him, like it's ready in case he needs it to cut his meat or just kill somebody.
Wait a second.
But it's
I could have brought in my Valyrian steel weapon to this.
not your spear necessarily, but you guys can all have swords, as long as it's something sheathed and at your side, and kind of a sign of knightly stuff. So Oris couldn't carry one, Adam couldn't carry one, but yeah, the rest of you can certainly have like swords.
Yeah, I definitely have my short sword with me.
Yeah, Lynn Corbray is
Small sword, excuse me.
I gotcha. He's kind of flouting the custom by not still having it at his belt, because that's kind of the custom, is that a knight is expected to go armed. And he's kind of pointedly taken his off and has it there for easier reach, which is a very Lynn Corbray-ish move. But you can kind of get away with that a little bit with Lady Forlorn and being out of fucks to give. So he's there looking very dangerous and kind of subtly splashed with blood, is the look he's going for, right? This white and black and then just the splashes of red. And it's a look that he pulls off better than most. He is sitting near the rest of that kind of Vale contingent. But the head of the Vale contingent is Lord Peter Baelish, Master of Coin, here in Westeros. And he's the one that you can tell most of the Vale contingent is kind of seated in proximity to. Like, he's the proximity marker of the Vale contingent. He's the one that Lynn Corbray is listening to, instead of the joke that the Blackfish is laughing about. It's Lynn, Corbray is raptly paying attention to some important thing Peter Baelish is saying. Seated near Peter Baelish is a grizzled old master-at-arms with sun and wind-burnt skin and craggy features and a short kind of mane of white hair, Oswell Kettleblack, that Vannon and Lucaris had the distinct displeasure of meeting earlier this week. And you remember that he is a sworn sword, and despite not being a knight, he serves as kind of the master-at-arms and bodyguard of Lord Peter Baelish, Master of Coin. There's a woman seated next to him that you don't recognize, that is rather pointedly not speaking. She's a woman well into her middle age. She's a good deal younger than him. He is old enough and has lived and drinking hard enough to have that, kind of storm cloud white hair of a man well into his 50s. She looks to be early to mid 40s instead, still kind of matronly, but she is very much not kind of taking part in the conversation. She's listening. And the three of them are in the colors of House Baelish, as befitting a retainer of some sort. And you're not sure who she is, but she's sitting right next to Oswell Kettleblack, and just kind of listening to the men talk is the general vibe there. So that's the Vale contingent. They're kind of on one side of the room, seated from kind of lowest to kind of highest.
Kind of.
Well, it's Peter Baelish. He doesn't have a ton of land, but he's the master of coin.
Right.
He's clearly he's the only lord from the Vale that's sitting at that table. The rest of them are second-born or knights or daughters, that sort of thing. So he's still, even if he wasn't master of coin, even if he was just the lord of House Baelish, small as their holdings might be, he's still kind of the highest status in that little group. Sitting opposite them, and we're going to kind of go in reverse. There are a few chairs that are clearly left open towards the head of the table, and at a glance you can tell that it is a bunch of reachmen sitting there. So there are several seats that are open towards the king's portion of the table that you don't doubt at least two of them are for the Lady Olenna and Sir Garland. But just next to that kind of reserved section, you see a pair of knights of House Florent, Sir Imry Florent and Sir Aaron Florent. You haven't seen a lot of Sir Aaron this week, but he's been serving as the master of the lists. So he's been bureaucraty behind the scenes. The both of them are wearing the red fox head and the blue flowers of House Florent. And they're also, of course, wearing the freckles and the rather prominent ears of House Florent, which is a reminder that House Florent listens in a lot here in King's Landing. They are a prominent reach house, but more lately, they have risen to positions of prominence through their sister, who is the wife to Lord Stannis of Dragonstone. So they are a wealthy house from the Reach, but they're also getting some political capital by way of the Crown Lands and their ties to Lord Stannis, and through him, the rest of House Baratheon. So they're a Reach house that's still getting some acclaim and influence by way of other houses and more direct ties to power right now. But they're sitting there. Both of them are knights. They're pointedly not laughing in a conversation with Sir Parman Crane, who is rather dashingly and almost matching their colors, and that they've got golden cranes and light blue. And as many Reach houses do, they're wearing a fair amount of white to just kind of look clean and chivalrous and to show off how clean they keep their clothes. Wearing white's kind of a power move in a place like Westeros, because you're like, no, I am above getting dirty, right? But they're sitting with a couple members of House Crane. Sir Parman Crane is a knight of some repute, and his rather cheerful is kind of the thing you remember of her the most. His sister, Meredith Crane, also of Red Lake. You remember her just kind of laughing and having a good fucking time all through the race. Any of you that were close enough to her and her friend from the Vale, they were also riding kind of daringly for highborn maidens, with Miranda Royce pealing out laughter at kind of how risque it was for them to be riding like commoners, right? But Mary seemed to just be laughing because she enjoyed the ride. She enjoyed racing, and you remember her also commenting about some hawking and stuff, and she was wearing her lucky hawking glove. So she is over there spreading some grace and good cheer among the Reach contingent, which is probably good because they're seated next to a Stormlander contingent.
Who
Um,
did that?
and they're kind of opposite one another on the tables so that neither group is seated ahead of the other, because the Stormlanders are, the home of House Baratheon. But somebody took a risk by putting Sir Parman Crane not far from Sir Bonifer Hasty, who beat him in the tilt. You may remember the two of them went to 7 lances, and then Sir Parman kind of ceded the tilt instead of them settling it afoot to his elder by a generation or more, Sir Bonifer the Hasty. So they don't seem to have like bad blood, but it could have been, right? So they were kind of rolling the dice on that. But Sir Bonifer Hasty is sitting there. One of the things that you lot remember about Sir Bonifer is that he's not always spoken of in Valyrian circles terribly well. He was rather scandalously entangled in a romance with kind of your great aunt. Again, the blood ties are a little fuzzy and interwoven. But the Princess Rhaela Targaryen, who would go on to become the queen of the Mad King Aerys, in their youth, Sir Bonifer and Princess Rhaela were apparently rather infatuated with one another, which was seen as very above his station for a knight from the Stormlands. And he seems to have quit jousting for quite some time over how the romance was handled. And he only reluctantly re-enlisted in the tilt at this joust. He's a sour-faced guy, just renowned for his piety. And he looks it. Like he looks like that level of good company at a feast.
Like Stannis.
He is a Stormlander renowned for piety and seriousness. So he hasn't even got the traditional Stormlander virtues, right? Like he's just a bucket of fun.
Sounds like someone Stannis would like.
If Stannis liked anybody, and if the two of them didn't immediately dislike each other, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. So he's hanging out, just kind of existing. But the rest of the Stormlander contingent are some more familiar faces and one ungainly odd duckling that doesn't fit in. Because he's not a Stormlander. And in fact, he's barely even highborn. And that is the physically and socially awkward Langley Woods. The tall, gangly Langley, who is
Gangly Langley.
sitting at the lowest end of the table of your lot, currently insisting on pouring the wine for his betrothed, the Lady Marita of Silverstone Keep and House Lucas. So he is sitting next to her and awkwardly fawning on her, insisting on taking the thing of wine from one of the servants that was about to pour it, which he may or may not know is kind of rude, but he's a northerner, so who knows. Sitting next to her is Orton Lugas, who is talking with some of the Florents, no doubt discussing some of the political maneuverings of stuff, because he has expressed some interest in that, but he doesn't have a nose in a book. He can't just ignore everybody in the Red Keep like he can the Green Tree. He does still seem to be talking business instead of, having fun. So it's probably him. He doesn't seem to be having a good time. In stark contrast is Sir Nathan Lugas, who is, with startling clarity, trying to flirt with Mary Crane. It's the nickname of Meredith Crane.
What a weird combo.
Just said something, ride my stallion, something. as she's talking
Wow.
about riding in the horsemanship contest. You
Goodness
pick
me.
up on that oh so subtle bit of
Oh, yeah, man.
debonair flirtatiousness from the already no doubt mildly intoxicated Sir Nathan Lucas, the heir to Silverstone Keep. The Lugai are dressed up, not quite as fancily as you lot, but they are wearing the silver, black, and emerald green of House Lucas, and they've got their house sigil prominently displayed on their, various garments and such. And they clean up. Sir Nathan did shave for this, and he is ruggedly handsome beneath the Stormlander bluster. He's not a bad-looking dude. Welcome back, Ash.
Sorry
looked
about that.
we dropped you.
Discord just booted me.
So, those are the tables flanking the center of the room, which leads you towards the royal table as you're making your way up there. And there, you see the actual ranking members of tonight's feast. Starting with the Hand of the King and the ranking member of the Vale, Lord John Arryn, who is unfortunately accompanied by his wife, Lisa Arryn, and their young son, Sweet Robin.
Does he look like he's about to, become sick and die?
Tits out or tits in?
Tits are in. The feast hasn't started yet. They're not. He's not eating ahead of everyone else. That would be rude. John Arryn.
For the king.
Good manners, Aaron.
Yes, they're controlling themselves. Hashtag teats out. John Arryn, of course, is an older fellow. He smiles often but carefully. The few times that you've seen him with kind of raucous laughter, he does have pretty awful fucking teeth. But for the rest of him, he's a rather stately fellow, kind of serving as Secretary of State, and he has the burden that comes with that. You know that he's a good 20 years older even than, the kind of middle-aged generation of Robert's Rebellion, the King Roberts and that sort. But it looks like being Hand of the King has been weighing on him. And you're seeing him a little bit closer up than the prayer time, but he's sitting and talking with Lord Stannis Baratheon, Master of Ships and Lord of Dragonstone, head of House Baratheon of Dragonstone. The two of them aren't jesting or laughing because one of the two is Stannis Baratheon. Stannis, of course, Stannis, of course, is all cleaned up and perfectly neatly trimmed everything. He has the same kind of perpetual beard that he always does, that is exactly more stubble than he wants, but not enough to be wildly bearded and hairy and accidentally relaxing even his facial hair, right? It's got that exact look going on. And the two of them, John Arryn and Lord Stannis, just kind of lean together, and you see them nodding towards the lot of you a little bit. They're not like pointing or yelling for the King's Guard or anything like that, but just nodding towards one another a little. And then you pointedly don't notice at the royal table any motherfucking blondes. Princess Myrcella is not at this dinner feast at Princess Myrcella's name day tourney. Joffrey, the prince, is not in attendance. Young Tommen is not in attendance. Cersei Lannister is not in attendance. And the king is not surrounded by either of his Lannister blonde squires. The pair of Lannisters that were ousted from the squires' tourney. None of them are there. And the smirking Kingslayer is also nowhere to be seen. So there's actually an empty seat at the royal chair the second most fancy one, the one that Robert isn't seated in. So it's Robert, and then like on one side is an empty chair, on the other side is Hand of the King, and then his brother, etc., etc. They haven't taken away all the chairs, like the child-sized ones for the rest of the royal family. Those are gone, but the kind of fancy queen chair is still sitting there, empty. In a very pointed way, the queen and the rest of the royal family and the rest of the Lannisters are not here. So it's a bit less colorful than other feasts might be, but there also seems to be a bit less tension in the air, and there might be a little bit more kind of genuine goodwill. But then seated, or rather having lurched from his chair and come around to the front, is, of course, King Robert Baratheon. His Grace, first of his name, King of the Andals, Rhoynar and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, Protector of the Realm, etc., etc., who is currently lifting Sir Garland off his feet in a bear hug, and then bowing over the hand of the Lady Olenna, because the two of them have finally made their way to the front of the room, as you lot were able to follow in the wake of Grand Maester Pycelle's 5-minute introduction of your house. Whew. That's everybody.
Wow.
Oh, sorry.
Let's see how quickly we can get rid of that goodwill.
Right? What Olenna did was she went like right up to the king and they exchanged pleasantries.
They just got to the front. And this is, again, you guys didn't take 5 minutes to point at everybody in the crowd. This was like slow camera pan as you were making your way to the front. So they just got to the front, and you hear Robert letting Sir Garland down and back on his feet. He goes, "Ha ha! You're much harder to lift than that little brother of yours, but it's good for Baratheons to give you Tyrell's hugs and keep you a lot close. Though, no doubt not as close as your baby brother and mine, eh? Where have you lot squirreled Renly off to? I heard he lost a horse in that tourney. It's good to see you, though, Garland. No lost horses for you. Made it all the way to the finals, surprising none. Fine work, lad." To which Garland responds with his usual aplomb and certainty and grace, not picking up any sort of double entendres about either of their brothers, ignoring all that, just graciously, "Oh, my thanks, your grace. The gods were with me, and I got a bevy of opponents, both honorable and able, but I was able to edge them out."
Here.
He's so polite.
He does actually half turn. At that, he half turns.
Marry him.
Yeah. He does half turn and gesture towards the Lady Bela, just as you lot are getting close enough to politely include in the conversation. King Robert doesn't seem to pick up on that cue, and instead he goes, and of course your grandmother, the Lady Olenna." And he bends over her hand, and it's not a bad bow for a dude of his age and girth. Like he knows what he's doing when he wants to, and he bows over her hand and plants a smooch right on it, and then he straightens up. And he goes, I'd give you a hug, but I'm not gonna wrinkle that gown and start another war. You're as gorgeous as the prettiest rose in all of Highgarden, and I'll murder any man says otherwise."
Very nice.
And she goes, "Well, it would seem that I'm also the prettiest rose in attendance tonight. Alas, Pycelle made the walk from the back of the room to the front even more agonizing on my old feet. But I see you've a chair clear. It would seem her grace has decided not to join us this evening." And Robert actually hums and haws a bit for a second, like he's a little embarrassed. He goes, the queen is unwell, and sweet Marcella and Tormund and the lot are looking after her in her chambers. No, she is not joining us. And the Lady Olenna says, well, her chair's a good bit closer than that other one. I trust you shan't mind. And she breezes past Robert.
Nice.
What a player!
And just has a seat
Audacity.
up at the front of the room. And then
Wow.
Robert turns, and you lot are beneath the shining sun of the Usurper King, point blank, for kind of the first time. He's talked to you lot before. He's bellowed in the direction of you lot before.
Mhm.
He's seen you at the joust and stuff,
Mhm.
but you weren't really social, right? And he turns and he gives you a long look. He goes, the Dornish dragons. Haven't seen this much silver hair since there were a few heads on pikes. But 'twas long ago. And he takes a half step towards towards Reyna,
Oh, okay.
kind of lining up at that end of the
It's my
group.
time.
You won't be first. And he goes, so, heir to Wyvern's Rest and the elder twin. By moments, I hear. You've that Targaryen look on you, but you wear it better than most, I suppose. I missed the horsemanship contest. It was a bit too early for me, I'm afraid. But I heard you came in third. Eh?
I did, Your Grace. But it was very early.
A lucky horse, well ridden.
Oh,
And he leans over your hand and gives you a smooch.
Oh, okay.
Nobody tell him I won, because that's gonna get real weird.
Weird.
The kiss he gives you.
And he goes, aha! And speaking of well-bred horses, also well-ridden, oh, Trance Defiler herself comes swaggering into the Queen's ballroom. Bela, isn't it?
Yes, Your Grace.
Aye, and bigger balls on you than on our Baelish. Come here, you. And he holds a hand out for your hand.
I'll put it out.
He bows over it and gives you a kiss and a similar pointed look and a bit of an eyebrow arch as he straightens up. Well, tell that Lord Maekar he nearly started another war, eh? Keeping you lot in Dorne all these years and sending us just your prettiest brother instead.
We will.
And that's kind of to both of you, both
Yeah.
of the twin.
Grandfather knew what he was doing.
Keeping Dorne's treasures down there in the sand and just sending us this one. And then he sidesteps to Lucaris. Look at you! Such a grown man, you've gone and let your hair show, huh? Emboldened by the other sandy dragons, I see.
Could not put one past you, that is correct. I figure we might as well show some community.
Well, your horse is less lucky than your sister's, but I heard you rode it well. You did fine enough in the tilts that I saw, lad. I'm sure Sir Aaron would be proud if he was here tonight.
Well, thank you. I hope you'll pay attention to us during the melee.
Oh, looking forward to the melee as much as I am, eh? Well, I'm sure you lot'll be hard to miss. I've heard a great many men plan on gunning for your sisters. Be a good lad and keep them safe, if you can keep up.
I'll do what I can, sir. Thank you.
and you. And he looms over Adam in a way that's not the comforting looming when Oris is the one looming over you. And he's a big dude still. Like, it's very pointed and clear against all of you. He is well over 6 feet tall, and he has mass to go with it. He has gone to fat, but he's just big. So he's got those huge shoulders and these huge hands, and he holds a hand out for you for a shake.
Oh my god.
That's gonna make you look. He goes, "You won that archery contest, eh? Shown the world what you can do on your, well, I suppose it's still 2 good feet, eh?"
Your congratulations means the world to me, Your Grace. Thank you. I will shake the offered hand.
Aye, a bum leg, but you can still do what needs doing, eh? Good lad, good lad.
Thank you, Your Grace.
He gives you a good-natured smack on the shoulder that almost knocks you off your feet. And that leads you, eh? The sandy bastard of the Riverlands, Sir Vannon Rivers, finest horseman that got up at the ass crack of dawn.
Watch this one, sir. He'll win your gold from you in no time.
He'll do what? Sorry, your sound cut out a little on.
He'll win your gold from you in no time.
Oh, a gambling man, huh? Well, you'll have to get through Baelish and John Aaron and half the rest of the small fucking council to get a silver from these skinflints. But good luck with that.
I'm afraid to talk. It's literally just smiles and nods. And
Don't think I've forgotten you knocked Blunt on his ass too, boy. You put on a show.
I fear he hasn't forgotten either, Your Grace.
He'll get over it. Lord knows he's gotten over enough in his day. Well. Kingsguard, none of them made it into the finals, and you lot are to thank for 2 of them being knocked out. But fair and square, Lord knows they wouldn't give up the bout to either of you without a fight, eh? Yeah, you Sandy Dornish did well enough.
That's all we could ask for, Your Highness.
He has such a way with words.
And he gives Vannon another hand-crushing shake. This one actually with his normal force in it for other knights. Like, he didn't do that to Adam because he doesn't want to break the archer's hand, and he's still just a boy, right? But you can tell you get a different flavor of handshake. It's the one that Luke got, not the one that Adam got.
Cool.
And then he sidesteps the mass of him to the end of your little row. And he tilts his head up just a hair in a way that you can tell Robert Baratheon doesn't normally have to do.
Oh, no.
They're comparable. It's only, about an inch height different. He goes, "Ha! And speaking of doing well for themselves this week, 7 hells, boy, you're even bigger out of the armor." Oris turns and, unabashedly stares at the lot of you with, eyes wide. Like a stallion about to panic. And then he just looks back to the king and he goes, "Methinks, Your Grace, my Lord, Your Highness."
Your Grace is perfect.
You address the king as Your Grace and bow to him, Oris.
Oris takes a step back so there's room to bow. And Robert lets him, and then Robert says, save the titles and shit for Pycelle. He loves reading that garbage off. Everyone knows who the king is. Anyways, you did well, lad. Knocking Lancel on his arse, but then doing the same to that Hugh so that John couldn't give me any shit for it. You fought well, boy, and a prize well earned. I hope you don't kill the fucking Corso when we give it to you. Because Horus is big and the Corso's not.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Uh-huh.
Horus doesn't like pick up on it. He's just kind of staring and like not sure what to do, looking a little panicky.
Yeah, Adam's going to kind of try and smooth that over and kind of, clearly Horus is sort of stunned, so Adam's going to do some of the parrying for him.
He's fine. There's no attacks necessarily coming his way. And after Horus, doesn't answer for a few seconds, and you do hear just a few titters from the background. Some very pointed but polite noble women giggling and hiding it at the kind of awkward silence of Horus just going like, does the king think I kill horses? Oh God. There's just a moment of Horus not knowing how to answer. And then Robert gives him a big smack on the shoulder again, which does not knock Horus over. And he goes, anyways, doesn't matter if you're a deaf mute, boy. You let your hammer do the talking for you, huh? I saw that a few times. Good fighting, lad, good fighting. Cracked that kettle black something proper and almost broke that Royce boy into pieces. Anyways, good lad, good lad. Go have yourself a seat. And then the rest of you, he just kind of gestures. He goes, so, the last of them are in attendance. And with the Tyrells of Highgarden making themselves at home. And with House Nymerian of Wyvern's Rest in attendance. Pycelle, sit your bony ass down. You're off work for the night. And all the rest of you lot, let's get to drinking and eating. The dinner started. And he casually reaches behind him to grab fucking anybody's drink. Turns out it's Stannis's mug that he gropes for blindly. And he lifts it to toast for everyone. And you're able to make your way to your seats just as the first of the food commences to being served. Chat, while I start in with the opening round of the feast, I need chat to start picking me numbers between 1 and 30. Get me 4 of them for the opening course. We're going to open with the evening's drinks, where Robert, after he heaves himself back into his seat, says, let's open with the black and yellows, lads. And they bring out the Baratheon black and yellow beers. There's a thick black stout, heavy with roasted malts, that's maybe the deepest, darkest drink you've ever seen. And also a pale yellow lager that is gold as straw. And they're, these clashing beers that will complement whichever thing you drink them with. So those are the opening drinks that are just going to be kind of on tap all night. But served with this course is a sweet blackberry wine that is the Lady Olenna gives Garland a curt nod that you barely notice, but you guys pick up on it. And Garland goes, the blackberry wine from the arbor, with unmistakable Garland good cheer that just everybody's like, yay, some tasty blackberry wine. And these motherfuckers don't even know it was a pop-up ad. It's just Garland being cheerful like Garland does, but everybody, you notice that it was on a cue from the Lady Olenna. But the sweet blackberry wine will be accompanying small, crispy sweet corn fritters, black bed crackers served with small stone bowls of a strong goat's cheese spread that's rich with slivers of onion, and then um, every little table gets like a bowl. It's almost like a bowl of guac at like a Mexican restaurant. So it's like this kind of
Yeah, I'm in.
this
Yeah.
stone bowl with the spread, and everyone has their table knives to scoop out and smear on. So you've got the opening um, kind of earliest stuff to snack on as everybody makes their initial call for whether they want the black or the yellow beer, which is going to be the default that is effortlessly refilled all night. You can ask for both because ain't no party like a Baratheon party. But the
Both
default
here.
the default is that people choose one of the two to suit their palate and frankly their hunger, because one is such a thick black stout that it's functionally eating a couple slices of bread with every pint. So everybody just you get a moment with the various servants to make your call of black or yellow, to quickly introduce yourself to whoever you decided to sit next to, and that sort of thing, as the opening little fritters and the bread crackers and stuff are run.
Rusty.
So last thing to pick your seating, there are pointedly empty seats elsewhere. So you don't necessarily have to sit there by the reach contingent. They've made a point of leaving a few open seats throughout so people can kind of come and go and mingle without it interrupting the meal. And so if you want to, it's maybe a little daring, particularly if a bachelor sits next to a maiden, right? That sort of thing. So you can choose where you want to sit. So every PC gets to kind of choose what NPCs you want to sit by, and you can probably change it for different courses of the meal so that PCs can intermingle and do what you want to do. So let's do this in reverse order. We'll start. Oris just went and had a seat at the openest, emptiest spot, so he's not talking to anybody. Vannon, where are you choosing to go situate yourself?
We said the blackfish is here, right?
Yes.
He is. Sorry.
I will go and chill with him.
All right. He is seated. He is seated. He is seated, kind of intermingled with the Vale contingent, because that is where he is serving as the Knight of the Bloody Gate, which is all in caps. But he is still a legendary, Riverlander. And he actually gives you a nod and a friendly, creased-faced smile. He's, very weathered and stuff, but he gives you a nod and a seemingly fairly genuine and sincere smile as you approach after your brief conversation the other day. Adam, where are you choosing to sit and initially mingle? Adam, you're up next. We're going in kind of
Sorry,
reverse
there
order.
was it all went really, really crunchy, so I didn't hear that. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, we're having some mild tech issues tonight. Sorry, everybody.
That was okay. Right. Is this a kind of pick a place and that's it?
Who do you want to
Um,
sit by?
Are we going to get
yeah.
to it about?
The empty seats are still going to be empty, so you guys can probably move around from course to course. So it's just kind of your starting spot. Who initially catches your eye, for the initial kind of default spots?
Oh. Oh crap. Can you come back to me?
Okay. It is perfectly in character for Adam to stop it. Oh no.
I'm gonna ask the chat to help me.
Okay. We will cut to Lucaris then. As King Robert toasted you lot with Stannis's beer, where's Lucaris make a beeline for?
Lucaris would like to find a place to sit near both Marita Lucas and if possible, he'd also like to nod to and give a little flirtatious signals out to the Stone Girl,
Maya.
Maya Stone.
Maya Stone.
Maya is kind of on the other set of tables. There's two sets of tables, kind of leading towards the royal table. So it's like a lowercase n, almost, where like the royal table's up top, and then the two rows. Maya Stone's kind of over on the Vale side, and Lucas is over on the Reach and Stormland side.
He'll sit next to Marita Lugas, but he'll throw the occasional glance at Maya Stone.
Gotcha.
There you go.
That is absolutely doable. Seating near Marita, you're also near Langley Woods and Orton and Nathan. The Lugasai are kind of hanging out together.
Yeah. So on the
so
surface, he's hanging out with the Lugai, but beyond that, he's kind of got a hit on Marita.
No problem. Okay, then we will go to the Lady Bela. Where are you choosing to initially park yourself in the feast?
I think I'm going to go over to the Maya Stone and the lady she's been talking with just to get some new faces to speak to.
Okay.
Good backup.
So that is Maya Stone, who is dressed up. She's not in like a gown, but she's dressed much like a squire or another kind of retainer, but she's still in kind of what's considered men's clothes. She's very pointedly not trying to present herself as a lady, even though she's been a little cleaned up, made up sort of thing. And she's in like clean and new clothes, but it's like leather breeches, a good clean tunic, a leather vest, and then it's got like a patch on the vest that shows the crest of House Aaron of the Vale, who are the ones that she's sworn to. I didn't really describe her outfit earlier, sorry. But she's sitting there, and she's with the Lady Miranda Royce, who is all gussied up. She has her largest assets on clear display, unabashedly so. And she is the Lady Miranda Royce of the Gates of the Moon. She's of an age of you lot, maybe a year or two younger than your average. And she's got brown hair and eyes, short, buxom, and recently widowed. You remember a bit of gossip about that. But yeah, she's hanging out with Maya Stone. You are able to sit with them quite handily. And Maya kind of glances up and maybe brightens up a bit at your arrival. And the Lady Miranda almost does like a fake girl smile your way. That kind of, one pretty girl to another pretty girl. I don't know if you're a rival yet type of look, where it's still very polite and doing the noble woman stuff, but she's not, you're not sure how sincere her smile is kind of your opening intro there. Does that work?
Yes, but here's an idea. Can I spend a destiny point to improve her disposition towards me by one step?
Which of them in particular?
Miranda.
Yep. All right, then. It is duly noted. Because, yes, you can. Now, it's still that kind of wary, highborn lady smile where you're not real sure.
Don't leave a guy hanging.
But it is duly noted in the literal sprawling 3,200 word document of notes. All right, then. Lady Reyna, where are you choosing to park yourself? Chat is making her too happy to roleplay properly right now. She's not in a Reyna mood because she's having fun.
I imagine her going to sit back down and everybody's just off doing nonsense.
So Reyna, where are you going?
I am actually going to go with Bela because I think young Mary is a good contact to cultivate.
Young Mary is a different contact to
Oh.
cultivate.
Well,
That is
she's
the
the one I'm
lady.
going to aim for.
Okay, yeah, that is the Lady Miranda Royce. Mary is the nickname of Meredith Crane from The Reach. So we're
Crane,
heading over
that's
that
the
way.
one.
That's fair. She is sitting with her brother, and chatting over there with the Reach contingent. So it's closer to where you're possibly expected to sit, and you're also not terribly far from the Lugasai and some others that you've met, or that group. So,
Well,
yeah,
so when I get bored, I'll just, kind of slide that way.
sure. And Mary Crane looks up and gives you what seems to be a warm and welcoming smile. She goes, "Oh, Lady Reyna, from the race. We were not terribly far from each other."
We weren't, but you were very, very quick and an excellent horsewoman. Which
Well,
means a lot coming from a Dornish lady.
Do you actually say the means a lot part, or
is it implied?
It is implied. I'll say it's implied.
okay? It was perfectly in character to say it in like a playful banter way, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But okay.
The Dornish are all omnisexuals and
Every
very
single
far
one of
from
us.
home.
Brian?
That's why there's so many of them. It's the secret.
The desert is full of sands.
So yeah, she gives you a pleased smile. She gives you a pleased smile, and she goes, "Well, you should see me with a hawk on my wrist. I'm positively lethal."
Ooh, flirting.
Apparently I am as well, but with the sword.
She looks suitably serious for a moment that you think might have cost her a destiny point. She her perpetual smile goes away, and she goes like, "Oh yes, I heard about that. Damn it, boy."
It's a shame. The gods had spoken, and that was unneeded and just a waste.
Sorry, can I just say, I heard, yeah, that was a shit. Just, oh, yeah.
She goes,
Oops.
"Yes, indeed. Dornish tempers are rather famous, so I'm not sure what the boy expected when he challenged one to a duel that way."
I think he expected me to be defeated. Men often underestimate me.
Well, certainly it's what he was hoping for, I don't doubt. But yes, of course, his passing, very grave. So unfortunate. Which means we are out of time. Adam has to make a call, or he's just going to be
fine.
that gawky kid standing there too long, and then the anxiousness will spiral from taking too long to choose. So
Every
dun,
now
dun,
and then,
dun.
when Adam looks up, Luke is motioning him to join him.
So, Adam,
Oh,
what was the fate put upon you by chat? What do we got?
right. Okay, well, the chat were given the choice of low danger to high danger of Orton Lugas, Oris, or Lincor. And Felicia got in first, so Adam is going to go and sit with Lynn.
Because
Ooh.
trouble.
Because she wants to see some trouble, and, well, I mean, it might be very short-lived.
Adam is feeling very brave.
So might Adam.
It's just Adam has a burning question to ask, and he's just going to get it out of the way.
Did I mishear, or is Adam coming to sit by Luke?
Mm-mm.
No, he is coming to sit by Lynn Corbray,
Oh,
which
okay.
is kind
I
of
misheard
the
then.
other end of the veiled contingent. It's at the same
Fair.
table, but yeah, kind of the other end of it.
I guess I'll give Luke a kind of I'll come to you in a minute kind of gesture, because I know he'll want to talk about girls, and it's horrifying.
So,
Girls.
We're not
just
talking about
awful.
boys. If you're into
Yeah,
that,
girls.
tell me. I'm a good brother.
so
You're such a good brother. It's
just not the
Oh.
type of brother that Adam needs right now.
yeah,
Wants.
it's just-
He
you're
may
just-
not. He
it's-
may not
it's
want
not-
it, but I think he.
I'm the
needs
brother
Yeah.
he needs,
not-
not the one he deserves or something.
Look, it isn't Luke's fault that he's a raging heterosexual.
Luke is a raging all sexual.
We don't hold
Okay,
it
that's
against
that's
him.
that's, that's all right then. It's just he's mostly talked about girls, so
He
Right.
just assumes that's the tragedy. Isn't it?
it was wrong of me to assume. I'm sorry.
The sordid details of the sexual preferences of House Nymerian are, as a group, only known to the GM so far, but a lot of them just haven't come up in game. But we are not a heteronormative party any more than we are a heteronormative group of players. So without spoilers, that's all we're going to go with for now. But
Okay.
as Adam is approaching Lynn Corbray, Lynn Corbray is leaning over and kind of talking to the off-panel Peter Baelish, but seated right next to Lynn Corbray, and as such, in looking in your direction, you see young Michael Redfort, who's got one of those black bread crackers with the goat's cheese and onion spread on it halfway to his mouth, and he stops and it like crack and it breaks and it drops as he like gawks at you coming towards them, and he leans over and kind of elbows Sir Lynn, and it's like, Dornishman. You hear mutter, Dornishman mutter. And Sir Lynn Corbray rearranges himself in his seat, pointedly looking very languid and deadly, as he lifts a finger towards Lord Baelish and kind of turns away from him to very pointedly show that he is not threatened by you. He leans away from Lady Forlorn and casts one black leather-clad leg up on the armrest of his chair and kind of rests his knee on it and gives you an appraising look. So,
Rusty,
And Adam passes
Rusty.
clean to.
now,
Rusty, you're a bad man.
now he's doing this because Sir Lynn Corbray is the
Yeah.
shatterer of the Dornish lines and the killer of your, I think, second cousin, very famously. And now some upstart Dornish lad is limping at his table, interrupting his dinner. And he's like, maybe this archer kid thinks he's hot shit. I've got to make a big show of not being intimidated. So
I love that. Like,
that's
Adam
why
is the
he's
least
doing
intimidating
it.
person ever.
Fuck them all, Adam.
Yeah, but
Uh,
here's Adam, like
There's an instruction
solid
I can get
snake
behind.
voice. You know, I want to
Sorry?
shatter your line.
So he makes
David lines it up, boy, Adam.
this big deal
Really?
of stretching out and lounging as you arrive, and he just quirks one black eyebrow in a yes what sort of look, and it's not quite like yo SA, you're in the wrong neighborhood, but like you're kind of in the wrong neighborhood, right? Like, so he's just kind of like, he gives you this quirked eyebrow look and does not speak.
Roll willpower not to stare at his codpiece.
Oh no, he's just in chaps, no pants. Just he is wearing full on leather pants. It's not just.
It'll take me a minute. That image.
Just like Lynn Corbray, just chaps and like the tunic and stuff, and then lounging that way and throwing his leg up.
The music is very different now.
Right?
There's glow sticks and shit.
So he
Yeah.
He gives you
No,
a
Adam's got
what
poker
do you
face.
want look.
Best poker face on. Sterling, Michael, you mind if I join you?
They both just kind of stop for a second, and Michael gives Lynn a questioning glance. Lynn pointedly doesn't look at or acknowledge his squire. He shifts in his seat a little bit, and you see the table opposite, or the chair opposite him at the table, gets kicked out just a little bit, and he gives an unconcerned shrug.
Right. Okay. Well, Adam will take that it's okay to sit down. I wanted to say that I very much enjoyed both of your performances in the joust.
You see his expression turn to a practiced glower. And it might be because both of them ended up losing in the joust, and that would have been a power move opening as a start to insulting them. So his expression turns back to kind of guarded instead of idly curious.
Yeah,
Doesn't.
because Adam's awkward as fuck, he'll immediately have to follow that with like, I'm serious. I'm not trying to be funny or anything.
So yeah, he just kind of gives you this glare. He doesn't respond, and he also doesn't seem to soften at your adorability the way your family does. It's a sign of weakness.
Yeah, no,
Everybody
totally
should.
fine.
Yeah, he just still kind of looks like expectantly at you.
Sure. I hope this won't be taken the wrong way, but I couldn't help but notice a certain energy after the joust with Sir Garland, and I have a curiosity that if you would be amenable to indulge. I'm curious. You seemed. It seemed very personal, and I'm curious as to what your history is there.
Oh no, dear sweet boy. It was just the very opposite of personal. And he kicks his leg off and kind of leans forward and reaches, but slowly enough that it's clearly not a threat, reaches out and kind of creepy bad guy caresses the hilt of Lady Forlorn. Not quite a threat, not quite suggestively, but he is kind of running his hand along the hilt of his sword. And he goes, "Oh, it wasn't personal at all. Lady Forlorn doesn't care who she drinks from. It's just that anytime I draw her, she gets terribly thirsty. So she and I were disappointed." And here his gaze flicks past you to the Reach contingent, and he glares at Sir Garland, and he goes, "She and I were both just disappointed with Garland refusing to accept our challenge in the spirit of King Robert's tourney. It seems that Lady Forlorn won't get to drink until tomorrow."
But forgive me, I have never owned a Valyrian weapon, and so I'm ignorant of its unique characteristics. But is it not the wielder who chooses to draw it?
Oh, this isn't any old sword or any old Valyrian trinket. Everyone knows of Lady Forlorn. I gave a distant cousin of yours quite the intimate introduction, as I recall.
Yes, I have read the account.
Boo.
She's a special blade with special desires. It's been quite some time since she had the spice of Dornish blood. And
Baylor,
his
kill him,
fingertip kind of taps the tip of the hilt, the way Doc Holliday tapped his grips right before drawing in Tombstone. Right? It's that same sort of nervous
so
twitch.
cool. So
that
cool.
same,
God damn
same
it.
sort of nervous twitch.
Baylor,
Like
kill him.
everybody knows what that looks like.
You sound almost disappointed.
Oh, no, me, I'm fine. But I can't speak for her.
I see. Well, that's all right. The king's peace does maintain us for now.
He sighs and kind of leans back in his chair away from his sword. He goes, "It does. Though stranger things have happened in melees." And he just casts that smoldering, not quite threatening glance literally all around the fucking room. like if he was Superman with his heat vision on, like everybody would die. He just leans back in his chair and is just like
Yeah.
fucking it's this implicit threat against literally everyone in the melee that
Sure.
might be within engagement range of him.
Well, I shall look forward to seeing you in action then.
I hope that seeing me in action will indulge any of your curiosities. And he gives you another up and down appraising look. This one's a little different.
A little.
Oh, I can assure you, Sir Lyn, my curiosities are infinite.
Damn!
Michael Redfort, for his part, hasn't seemed to pick up on this part of the conversation. But you unmistakably notice Lynn Corbray lift an eyebrow.
I sorry. I'm very entertained.
We will let that moment of conversation fizzle as everyone got some initial stuff in, because we've got to play with chat's numbers a bit. I'm going to skip over this 8 that we started with for right now, because it was Sir Lynn Corbray of Heart's Home. So we're not going to jump right back to him. The other Corbraying
I'm not
Part 2
done with him
Corbray
yet.
harder.
Oh, Adam's not done with him.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
So we're not gonna kind of artificially stilt in the potentially planned Lynn Corbray encounter, because that's what I've done with this list of NPCs. Is kind of maybe a thing happens for each of them depending on how the rest of the night has gone. So we're gonna skip the 8. We aren't going to skip the 2, however. As each of you are getting settled in, everybody at these sorts of feasts kind of keeps one eye on the royal table, because the dinner proceeds at the pace of King Robert Baratheon, first of his name, title, and his notable appetites. The royal table is kind of
real quick, Rusty.
Yeah.
How obvious is Adam's flirting with the Corbrays?
Well, you are at that table. You're probably a good 12-ish feet away, 10, 12, 15 feet, with some other conversations between you.
I have pretty good perception, so that's why I asked.
There's kind of an artificial split right around Michael Redfort, who is staying kind of half-seated with his back towards your half of the Vale contingent. He's kind of pointedly paying attention to his betters instead of his lessers, in a way. So there's kind of this artificial breach in the veil stuff at right
Okay.
around there. So you're a couple seats away from that. But
So with
certainly,
one eye
you know,
on what I'm doing, the other is paying attention to this nonsense.
yeah, you know, you certainly can tell Adam is there, and they're talking, and like nobody's stabbing anybody, you know, so like things seem to be going well, but you might not have any idea of just how well.
Okay. Yeah. So how focused I am on that versus the other thing is basically going to depend on how receptive the women are, I guess.
Yeah. And again, he has just kind of got there. It's been the first minute or two.
Okay. Fair.
Nobody's tossing their panties your way just yet, or anything like that. But we'll be coming back to.
Okay.
I want to give chat their interactivity.
Good. Yeah. Fine.
Here at the royal table. It's hard to miss Lord Stannis Baratheon, Master of Ships and Lord of Dragonstone. He is not with his wife. His wife and daughter have stayed on Dragonstone. So he's spending most of his time talking to Hand of the King, Jon Arryn. And you lot, with the wary eye out that you tend to keep about these things, you do notice that the two of them are now kind of pointedly looking at and talking about Oris. There's partially no mistaking it because of your high group awareness rolls. And it's partially because Oris is kind of sitting by himself. Like, he's only like a seat or two removed from anyone else. He didn't like sit at the far, empty, open part of the table, but there is like an empty seat in each direction around Oris. So it's just kind of easy to spot. They're not acting on anything. You can't really make out what they're saying because none of you are at the royal table during this part of the feast or anything like that. But it's just kind of some unmistakable attention. They're not yelling. They're not glaring. It's not like a vocal or strongly gesturing or dark features type of conversation. Just kind of acknowledging nods to one another and then a little chatter. And you know what I mean? So it's nothing real big. It's not a terribly expressive fellow, but it's just something you kind of notice from the two that was chosen. Then we had a 27 jumping towards the back. Excuse me. Allergies have been freaking awful this week. The 27, the way that Vannon is sitting and speaking with kind of his half of the Vale contingent, where he and Luke kind of settled with the cheerful group in the Vale, with Miranda Royce and Maya Stone, and their kind of perpetual escort / shadow / chaperone / friend, the Blackfish. You look past the Blackfish, who seems absolutely unconcerned about where he's seated in terms of pecking order. He's the motherfucking Blackfish. He doesn't need what seat he's in to tell him he's the motherfucking Blackfish. So he actually left the higher ranked seat in a loose, unofficial way, is the open one. So to converse with the Blackfish, you're actually looking past the Blackfish towards the entrance, and you see Boros Blunt trying to just fucking stare you down. Like he's in his helmet, and he's still just glaring at you like you were right there. And you can't miss it, Vannon. It's just, he's not quite like, "Urgh." Like he's not quite like one of the Frey boys trying to intimidate you from across the room, that like childishly, but he's very pointedly, like, if nothing else, like not doing his job as a Kingsguard by watching the rest of the room. He's just fucking glaring straight at you with his arms still crossed as though you have any reason to give a fuck. Like, like an angry jock at lunch in high school who's staring daggers at someone across the room, but like he can't just randomly run across the room and pick a fight or what, you know what I mean? Like, so it's this weird kind of hollow disapproval of him just fucking glaring at you in a way that he seems disappointed that you're not like rising to the bait and running across the room to pick a fight. It's just this fucking hollow, clear glare disapproval. Also, like, as though he's not mad at you for whooping his ass once already. Like, that's the other thing that makes it a not terribly intimidating thing. It's that, like, what he's mad at you for was beating him in a fight. So, like, what's he gonna do? Fight you again? So it's just...
Bitch, you just a bastard in gold.
So it's still just...
Yeah.
It's this intense glare. You're not sure what to do about it. I mean, you are bantering with the Blackfish, who has congratulated you. There's been some tourney banter, so you could turn it into a topic of discussion with him or whatever. But yeah, that's what Blunt is up to, is just fucking glaring at you impotently.
I am taking advantage of this moment between things to see if the Blackfish comments on it, where I'm like looking over and just...
Blackfish's back is kind of to him. You would
Okay.
have to comment or pointedly, mention it. But the Blackfish is a pretty...
perceptive guy.
Well, he's perceptive. He's also just a pretty... So far that you've seen him, he's a pretty affable, good-natured dude to people that aren't, like, disappointing him. You know what I mean? Like, you're not getting any of the grouchy uncle disappointed in you vibe. You're just getting like, hey, this is a cool uncle vibe from him. So he probably wouldn't like take it ill if you pointed it out to him in a wry sort of way or whatever.
So I say, seems Blunt isn't approving of my presence here. If he turns to look, just tiny tilt of the glass to Boros.
He doesn't. He's a canny enough old veteran that he doesn't go, huh? And, like can make a big deal of stopping and turning and gawking. He just kind of turns his head just enough to look, and then he straightens back your way and with a chuckle. Once upon a time, I considered joining the Kingsguard myself. I felt it would have been a fine way to rub my brother's nose in my refusal of various marriages. But, given the caliber of them, the door that seemed to open after the unpleasantness of the rebellion, thinking perhaps it's for the best I never joined up. I worry about the quality of the steel these days.
Of all the dreams I entertained, joining the Kingsguard wasn't one of them. Then again, dreams seem to be dying things these days.
A bastard knight with a good sword arm could dream for worse. The Kingsguard have had their share of natural-born members, and even a Lord Commander or two, as I recall. Bastards could have stranger dreams.
Could I trouble you with one of them?
We're at a feast. Speak away.
Do you know my father?
We have met.
I don't know how to approach him, if at all.
Carefully, lad. Like any bastard approaching his father. Carefully. And I'd watch yourself if you decided to go talk to your mother also. And he tosses his head down table past you.
I look down the table. Wait, my mom is here?
Oh!
Oh,
Do you like say that?
I like look over. It's not like I've got a ton of intrigue, so I'm probably just
So I'm assuming it's an obvious look, but not
Yes.
jumping up, Mama. Right? Yeah.
yeah. Who's my mother? Name yourself.
He nodded quite casually towards the woman sitting next to Lord Peter Baelish's bodyguard and master at arms. The woman sitting next to Oswell Kettleblack.
All right, rolling for aneurysm.
I don't know what to roll for that.
He
That's
he lifts
fair.
one white but still thick and bushy eyebrow, and he goes, "Don't tell me no one told you, boy."
No.
Well, seven hells, I'm sorry you had to hear it from an idiot like me, but yes, that's Maris Kettleblack. Unwise folk call her Maris Kettlebracken.
Oh man.
He leans in rather pointedly, partially to slide you the rest of his flagon of thick, dark ale in case you want a drink, and partially so he can lower his voice. Lord Baelish was looking for a good match for his master at arms, and managed to find him a highborn lad, despite Oswell never even bothering to be knighted, much less highborn. There was a Bracken lass who had recently dishonored herself by birthing a bastard, and Blackwood, no less. And so, leaning rather heavily upon the good graces of my niece, he was able to pull some strings, make some arrangements, and indeed, Maris Bracken found herself a new home in the Vale, far from her shame, and with clear messages sent to a great many people that they would be wise not to speak on her shame.
I'm in your debt, sir. Those
Truly.
The Kettleblacks have been trying to kill me for days.
Well, I doubt that, because kinslayers are accursed things. They're your
Even
brothers,
when they're
lad.
bastards. My
Even
brothers.
They may have been wanting to beat you, but if the Kettleblacks want someone dead, they die, is what I've heard about them from those without the social protections to make it otherwise. But they mustn't want you dead, lad, and I think it's because they're your brothers. She's their mother. She's their mother too, son. He leans back away from you for a moment, not like conversation's over, fuck off, but he leans back and just lifts a hand for one of the servants. He goes, let's refill the blacks and yellows here and bring us some of that Taroshi pear brandy Robert mentioned earlier, if you please. I think the boy could use something a bit stronger.
If it could be set aflame, it might quench something in me.
Oh, man. Holy shit.
Do we want to call that mini scene for a moment?
Sure, yes. I'd
'Cause
love
it looks
to.
like
Yeah.
Vannon needs some time and a few drinks.
Vannon's blue screened. I'd still like to get in a conversation with Lady Olenna at some point, but yes,
Yeah.
that's great for
That'll
that.
that will do for, and that was not necessarily how I expected Kingsguard Sir Boros Blunt's numerical selection to go, but it's how things happen. And that's what makes this semi-randomness so fun. However, we do still have the 30 from our opening round of hors d'oeuvres. And that comes by way of just after the Lady Reyna settles herself in and gets comfortable and starts in. Are you going for the corn fritters or the black bread crackers with the oniony, cheesy smears?
The crackers and the dip.
Okay. So just as you're getting started on that, you get a delicate, feather light, perfectly polite tap tap on your shoulder. And you turn around and see Acolyte Alaras, the young maester in training. He has the dark skin of Summer Island blood, but you notice a Dornish lilt to his voice, which I'm going to try not to roleplay. I don't like to roleplay accents that aren't potentially mine. But he goes, Lady Reyna, and he's wearing like a light gray robe, which the acolytes wear when working in public. You've seen them scurrying around the healers' tents and stuff. It's a very clear signifier that they're not really maesters, but if they're serving as junior maesters, they still wear it as kind of the uniform. So it's like an undyed fabric that they haven't made maester gray yet, in a very symbolic way. But he's got those voluminous sleeves, and from within the sleeves, he pulls out a small, tightly bound scroll, and he goes, Lady Reyna, I hope you won't mind me taking a bit of a shortcut, but Grand Maester Pycelle bid me deliver this to you at my earliest opportunity tomorrow, and it seems that this evening is an even earlier opportunity. I apologize for interrupting your meal, but here you are, my lady. Who's to talk?
Thank you, Acolyte. Is this in response to my query to the Maester's Council?
And he very much kind of feigns, plays it up. Oh, I wouldn't know. I'm only an acolyte. We are to serve messages rather than read them, every bit as much as if we were serving the noble lords of our homes. Wyvern's Rest for you, I do believe. And he's giving you an almost impish look, not just because of the joke of like, lol, maybe I read your email, but it's a very kind of playful look. So I want you to do me a favor and make a memory test.
Dice?
The core one there, just a quick one, or just read me what it is, because I don't remember how high yours is. But just give me a quick thing about how high your cunning/memory is. I give you guys a lot of alertness rolls for free, because I know as a group you've got quite a bit of a high average there. But this is just recollecting something.
I have dice.
Okay, it's your call. You could give me your passive memory, or you can roll it.
Oh, I have cunning, so I have 13.
Okay, you beat a 12, which is a pretty solid roll. You know this person. You don't know any young man a few years younger than you named Alaras. And you're sure it's not just from remembering Alaras from the Maester's tent a few days ago, but you're like, I think I know this person. I'm not going to give you the final answer just yet, but it's now definitely like niggling at you that you're like, I know them. I don't know any Maesters. I've never been to the Citadel. I've never been to the Reach. I've never left Dorne. I've barely left House Nymerian lands. And fact, the
It can't
longest
be
the
that
long,
many people.
the the longest I've ever been away from Nymerian lands was
It sounds fair.
playing with the other children in the water gardens at Sunspear, and that was 10 years ago. That's what's bouncing around in your noggin as Acolyte Alaras gives you a very polite bow and backs away in masterly fashion and then shuffles off to leave you with your scroll.
You tell me how rude it would be to whip this out and read it now in the middle of this party. Because that seems rude.
It's a little rude. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I will
It's
tuck it through my belt.
it's not as rude as other things you could whip out right here at this party, but it's a little rude.
Like your
So yeah, you can
Over
tuck it-
there, reading
Yeah.
impolite stuff. Over there, Luke's dick is out. Over here, mother!
Hey.
Mama.
It wouldn't be out unless it was doing something. You know, you have to know how to handle these.
Adam's like, do I fuck this supervillain? And Bela's like, what is wrong with all y'all?
Kevin.
Of
Kevin,
course you do.
Kevin, you're assuming that that's a question.
It's more like when.
And this is why I play edgy characters.
So
You guys always get to play.
what teenager didn't like get a crush on some like horrible edgelord?
It's very true.
moving
The
on.
Kevin Zarnicki story.
Moving on to the next course, because most of these, especially the earliest courses, are actually fairly quick. You're just going to have a few minutes to taste these delicious little fried sweet corn fritters and these so crisp and salty crackers with that good rich smear of goat's cheese and this deep flavorful onion spread. And the blackberry wine is actually quite tasty. The Arbor tends to favor a different flavor profile than the wines of Wyvern's Rest. And this kind of sweet wine is a nice sharp contrast to the other flavors on display in the opening. But alas, here comes the amuse. This is an assortment of thick crusted breads that have been expertly sliced in like a grid pattern so that you tear away just little bits of them at a go. So it's a great huge breads that aren't quite a flat bread technically, but they've cooked to be about just a few inches deep. So it's like a thick, crusty sourdough type of thing. And then they've been diced up so you can pluck out little bits of bread. And you've got assortments of rich Associ vinegars. There's small silver platters for each of them with about 3 or 4 different vinegars. Some of them black as sin, some of them light, richer colors. Some of them are almost sweet. Some of them are so sharp and tangy that you can almost taste them just looking at them. Right? So there's just these kind of foursomes of little different vinegars to dip them in, and then a little thing of thick salt crusts in the middle of each little tray of salts. So you can dip for salt, dip for vinegar, dip for both, whatever you like to do. And there's also small silver cups of a cool pea soup with chunks of good fatty pork in it and a rich kind of salty flavor that goes with this whole amuse course. And so, chat, while everyone is picking their favorites from among that course, give me 1 for the breads, 1 for the soup, and 1 for all the vinegars. So, chat, give me 3 more numbers between 1 and 30 while everybody's picking at their deliciousness.
Fancy bread and vinegar is like one of my favorite things. Oh,
Absolutely. That crusty bread, it's so soft on the inside.
My friends take the piss out of me for the sheer number of fancy balsamic vinegars I have.
Yep, this is what Felicia gets for having me watch foodie bullshit. Like everybody has to suffer. Okay.
Yeah, Luke will definitely be using his persuasion during the.
So
Persuasion.
we're gonna jump into these out of order to also kind of jump back at some of the PCs that haven't done a lot of talking just yet. So I'm gonna start with this 11 and go to Lucaris because Maya Stone's number just got called. So the camera's gonna kind of shift her way, and she starts to go for her belt knife to cut off a big chunk of this bread. And that will be her little quick prompt for you to speak up or not.
Luke will quickly draw his own dagger. No, I got this. And cut off a chunk for her.
The knives are completely unnecessary, but it was nice of you to smooth that over and make her not look awkward. You get a pointed look from the Lady Miranda Royce under politely downcast eyelashes, a kind of knowing nod of perhaps some grateful thanks. And I said, remember, you're not the only one over there. So Erica can also, you guys were trying to pull some of you that haven't really gotten your scenes in yet. But that was our quick little prompt there. So,
any awkwardness, Luke will gladly pull onto himself since he thinks he could sell it, and then go from there.
So you guys have soup and bread and Miranda Royce and Maya Stone to hang out with. And
he's
several
definitely doing the flirting. This is definitely going on.
With which of them or both?
If you win her over, that keeps her away from Oris.
It's Maya Stone, preferably.
Okay. Yeah, she's definitely a different build of woman than you are used to. She is tall and clearly strong and broad-shouldered and athletic, and again, kind of dressed like a man compared to the women that you've seen here in King's Landing. So perhaps
Luke's fucked men before. It's not that big a deal.
I'm not saying it's a big deal. I'm saying she is certainly eye-catching. You can understand Oris's kind of defense of, I was just looking at her that one time because look at her, right? Like she is very eye-catching and different in a kind of striking way compared to the equally pleasant but very differently styled women of King's Landing. She has been perhaps sullenly, perhaps just missing it, not quite picking up on your flirting. She's been very carefully polite in that pointed bastard way that you've come to recognize, where they are minding their manners because people remind them that they have to, type of thing. But she keeps kind of glancing past you, and in fact, even past the bubbly, curvaceous Lady Miranda, and she keeps looking at the back of the head of the redhead Michael Redford, Squire to Lynn Corbray.
Luke will also make sure that the wine and the beer is flowing, as well as his just kind of slowly working also on Marita Lucas.
Yeah, Marita's over on the other side of the room, but it's easy enough to get drinks sent like wherever, keep an eye on them. But yeah, Maya Stone looks a little pensive and a little uncertain, and remembering how certain and confident she was for the race, which she was in the lead for more stages of the race than anyone else. So it was well-deserved confidence on her horse and all that. But she looks very kind of awkward and I don't want to say nervous, but just bothered by something. As your flirtation is water off stone, and she seems to only have eyes for young Michael Redford down the table. You're also certainly able to pick on that yourself,
Curious.
Erica / Bela, you can clearly tell like oh, Luke's flirting with somebody, no biggie, but like she's not quite ignoring him, but just like, oh yes, thank you, it's a fine horse, and then kind of craning her neck to try to look down the table and see if Michael is looking her way. You know that sort of look. It's a lovesick girl who's being flirted with by the wrong person, so you can tell that, and she's more open about it than a proper highborn girl should be. So
Well, she's not a proper highborn girl.
yeah, and so it's just a matter of tempered expectations and all.
How does Miranda seem to be reacting to this going on?
She occasionally glances at Maya and looks a little crestfallen. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the poor sweet thing. You know what I mean? And it seems like a genuine bless her heart, not an actual Southern lady bless her heart. Like, the stupid bastard deserves it, right? But a genuine like, oh, like she's below my station, but she is my friend, and I'm sorry for her. You know what I mean? Like, she's not dwelling on it. She's not very open with it. She's not saying anything about it. But just every now and then she glances Maya's way, and then just a hair, and then very politely turns back to you and goes back to utter polite gossipy stuff. Speaking of which, like, what have you two been chatting about?
Probably starting with the horse race, because we were both in it. So starting from a common point of discussion.
And she'll go, oh yes, that was quite a bit of fun. It's just so daring, riding out there among the lowborn and all. Oh, father would have had a tizzy. But
Yes.
I mean, and she very pointedly and clearly looks straight at your chest, and then gives a bubbly shrug, and she goes, but some of us are a bit more built for riding than others. I'm afraid you may have been entirely more comfortable throughout all of that than I was.
Indeed. I completely understand.
You're built for speed, you bitch.
Wow.
That's classic.
Built for not harming
Not
myself
for speed.
for a long ride.
All that galloping and bouncing, I was half worried I'd shame myself, half worried I'd hurt myself, and half worried I'd get betrothed again.
Well, that's half the fun, right? The danger.
I suppose. But indeed, it was all just very daring and a good bit of fun. You seemed a good bit closer to the front than I was.
Yeah, right at the end, I certainly was. Yeah.
And remember, she and Mary, they were both like in the front half, like very handily. It was actually some really uncanny rolls. Like they were, top 10 with you guys in that group. But she was, several riders back. But yes, I seem to remember you being really quite close there at the end. I think that, and she cast a sidelong glance kind of down table, because again, you guys are only 3 or 4 seats away from Vannon and the Blackfish.
Yeah.
I seem to remember the redhead just finished a few scant seconds before you. Uncanny timing.
Yeah, I got caught up in some traffic right at the end, and he pulled ahead, and that's how it ended.
Yeah, and that was a nod towards you, Vannon.
I'm not a redhead.
I thought you were red hair and going gray at the temples.
No, black hair. Very
Black hair going gray at the
Yeah.
temples. All right, my bad. She wouldn't have said the redhead then. I apologize.
You were thinking of me, my man.
I thought he was red hair going gray. I just got it lodged in my head wrong.
Oh, good.
So instead she would say your ward. She'd say instead of the red. And then you were I'm sorry, caught in some traffic at the end, I think was the...
Yeah, there's a few bunched up, and couldn't break out until it was too late.
Well, it's not dreadfully uncommon for them to finish a hair before us anyway.
too funny.
So,
My mom's right over there.
so I'll try to gossip a bit about Sir Garland.
Ooh.
Did you see him?
Yes,
Oh my gosh.
he is hard to miss, isn't he? Leaving his wife at home too.
Yeah.
All
How about
pigeons
that?
in our table fall.
I've heard you Nymerians have been spending a good bit of time with the Tyrells this week. Has it been a very good bit of time?
uh, not as good
Has
as
it
one
been
would
what?
wish. But it has been pleasant, yes.
And throughout the scandalous talk, she makes a point of hiding her face just a hair too late. In a way that just accentuates the scandal of whatever's being discussed. Like you can tell she's doing it on purpose.
She's
In
very
an
high bar.
almost in a very kind of Olenna Tyrell way. You get that same vibe of most of these comments are testing the waters, right? Like she's saying stuff that's clearly across a line, but that sort of thing. So yeah, she keeps kind of doing that. She goes, "Oh well, that's too bad to hear. It was a bit less fun than it could have been, but the week's not over. He is supposed to ride at least one more time before the tourney's finished."
That's true. And he's in the melee, which should be plenty of fun.
Sweaty, chaotic affairs. A few too many people for me to keep track of, I'm afraid. All this jousting and fighting and stuff isn't quite my forte.
Well, at least we have events like this then to enjoy.
Oh, indeed, feasts are a bit more my speed, though they are often dreadfully dull with stuffy folk around. But, the Blackfish isn't too bad. He likes a ribald joke more than most, and of course Maya's a dear. She'd never tell on me to father.
Who is her father, by the way?
Her father is the Lord. Fuck me, I just forgot. Nestor, Lord Nestor Royce of the Gates of the Moon Royces, a cadet branch of the Royces of Runestone.
Okay.
Not a direct connection to Bronzeon, but I mean, like a half step removed.
Yeah, they're a
Two different House Royces.
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Sorry, everybody. Our food just got delivered, so our dogs are going crazy. Give us a second. Delivery people are here to murder us all. Of
Indeed.
course. All right,
Fortunately, dogs
yeah.
can warn you.
So that's going to be our 11, our 18, and actually our 12 just takes us back to the Blackfish. But before we go back to that whole conversation, which after a stiff drink or two, Sir
Charge
Vannon may
complete.
have recovered enough that he might want to include a few other table mates, we're actually going to call it for the night because I don't want to cut that conversation short. So we'll just remember what's on deck as a conversation a few seats away as we kind of loop back around to Sir Vannon Rivers, who is flabbergasted and who has friends close enough by. But like I said, we don't want to have to go, all right, Kevin, you get 2 minutes and then cut. So instead, what we're going to do is cut that short ahead of time, and we will loop back there shortly. But I hope everybody's been having a good time this feast. We have several courses to go, plenty of dishes to come, plenty of gossip to be dished out, plenty of dishes to be ogled, plenty of flirting to happen, plenty of friends and enemies and intrigues yet to come. There is a lot of feast still planned. So I hope that everyone has been enjoying it. Chat, you might not know it, but you are very much directing the flow of traffic with all this. The random kind of conversation bits that I have planned for these NPCs are very much being shaped and formed by the order that they're happening in, and on the conversations that have come prior and all that. So you're giving the PCs their cues and giving them their opportunities to do stuff. And you guys are kind of co-GMing, whether you know it or not. So hopefully that's been fun, as well as, of course, the many, many seasons of the Iron Throne. I missed it in chat because we had a really active chat, which is fucking dope. So I'm not sure who was last to seize the Iron Throne, but whoever it was, stick around after we sign off and please talk to me or hunt me down on Facebook. It was Locke. Shoot me a note and let me know what family you want to get a royal boon so that we are all set to pick up next week.
And if you give it to me, I will do something wacky. I promise.
Remember, the royal boons go to a whole house, so not just one player. So, Locke, you know who I am. Make sure you hit me up sometime between now and next session. Everybody else, we will see you back in a couple of weeks. It was great to see some new faces this week. Let's keep the fun coming. Tell your friends if you had a good time, come back. Make sure everybody gets caught up. Our first 10 episodes are up on YouTube now, not just on the Shadowcasters Network's Twitch. So make sure you tell your friends to get caught up and drag them back to Westeros.
Also, in the description down below, there's a link to the Discord server. It's a brand new Discord server for all of the shows on the Shadowcasters Network, including this one where you can talk about the show, upcoming things you might want to see, past things that have happened, and all sorts of other things. Interact with us and other people.
I put dumb 3D stuff on there.
Yeah, all the cast and crew are able to hang out there on that Discord as our schedules permit. And we've got lots of fun feedback there. People are showing off the inspiration for their outfits and all kinds of cool stuff like that. So check out that link and come hang out with us in the Sea of Spear nook of the Shadowcaster Network Twitch Discord channel. Hope everybody had a good time, players as always included, and we'll see you all back here in a couple of weeks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.